Welcome back to the library. In this 2-hour-long tale of World of Warcraft lore, we are going to dive into the history of various zones located in the southern expanse of the Eastern Kingdoms. We're going to tell the stories of the Elwynn Forest, Duskwood, the Redridge Mountains, Westfall, and then the great tale of the Stranglethorn Vale. So sit back, relax, pour yourself a glass of Thunderbrew Stout, and get ready to uncover the lore of the diverse lands within the Eastern Kingdoms. When recounting the lore of these zones within the Eastern Kingdoms, it's important to remember that the continent hasn't always looked the way it does today. Some of the lore relevant to this tale takes place before the Great Sundering, a world-shattering event that changed the face of Azeroth forever. The lands that now make up the Eastern Kingdoms were once part of the supercontinent known as Kalimdor. The history of this ancient continent stretches back over 10,000 years. During this era, the Night Elven civilization thrived, driven by the Highborn. However, their relentless quest for magical power, guided by Queen Azshara, led to their downfall. The Highborn's reckless exploration of the Well of Eternity disrupted its balance, drawing the Burning Legion to Azeroth and starting the War of the Ancients. Queen Azshara, influenced by her advisor Xavius and enticed by Sargeras, sought to purify the world using the Well's power, inadvertently inviting the Legion to invade Azeroth. The War of the Ancients, a pivotal event, saw Malfurion Stormrage use the Dragon Soul to sever the Highborn's connection to the Legion, causing the Well of Eternity to implode. This cataclysmic event sundered the world, creating the continent that we know today. In this tale, we will also cover various events such as the arrival of the humans, the wars against the gnolls and the trolls, and the invasion of Azeroth by the Orcish horde. All of these stories are relevant to the zones we will explore today, with many overlapping and intertwining with one another. And for that reason, some events may be discussed multiple times, each from different perspectives, to highlight how they uniquely impacted each region. A fitting place to begin this tale is, of course, the formidable heart of the kingdom, Elwynn Forest. The Elwynn Forest, a vast woodland that sits below the foothills of the Burning Steppes. It neighbours the calm Redridge Mountains in the east, lies north of Westfall, and is separated from Duskwood by the Nazvariti River. It is the very heart of the human kingdom of Stormwind, featuring a blend of winding rivers, lakes, dense forests with tall trees, and lush glades. The region benefits from frequent rains, nurturing its fertile farmlands. While humans inhabit the Elwynn Forest, it's also home to murlocs in some of the lakes, and various creatures like kobolds, gnolls, bears, wolves, spiders, and boars, all contributing to its rich wildlife. The story of the Elwynn Forest remains shrouded in mystery before the establishment of Stormwind ages ago by the Arathi bloodline of Stromgarde. Therefore, a brief yet concise overview of Stormwind's establishment serves as an ideal starting point for this narrative. For ages, the early human tribes thrived in the Eastern Kingdoms, engaging in continuous conflicts over territory and dominance. Situated on the northeastern borders between the human lands and the Amani Empire, the Arathi tribe engaged in prolonged battles with these forest trolls. The endurance of Arathor lasted for more than 1,000 years, and it gradually fragmented into the 7 kingdoms. Around 1,200 years before the events of the Dark Portal, the noble families of Strom aimed to depart the Arathi Highlands to settle in the more fertile northern regions of Lordaeron. Despite Thoradin's heirs arguing against abandoning Strom, the nobles still departed. The remaining Arathi descendants also left Arathor, journeying southward to establish the kingdom of Stormwind. After traversing the rugged mountains of Khazmodan, their arduous journey culminated as they settled in the northern reaches of the continent, confusingly christened Azeroth. In a verdant valley, they established the realm of Stormwind, swiftly emerging as a self-sustaining power. Initially, the Kingdom of Stormwind stood as the smallest and most secluded human nation, but it gradually thrived through the cultivation of numerous farmsteads in the fertile surroundings. As Stormwind's populace expanded, small towns sprouted around Elwynn Forest, the Redridge Mountains, Brightwood and Westfall, with the latter being renowned as the kingdom's breadbasket. Across several centuries, devout clerics from the Church of the Holy Light ventured south from Lordaeron, spreading their faith upon reaching Stormwind and establishing the Holy Order of Northshire Clerics. The kingdom found steadfast support from the Knights of the Brotherhood of the Horse. A more fitting name they went by were the Knights of Azeroth. These knights swore allegiance to the Kingdom of Stormwind and protected it with unmatched valour. Before delving deeper into Stormwind's history, we will wrap up the tales on this city. While a comprehensive narrative about Stormwind City awaits in a separate tale, for now let's return to the heart of this story in the Forest of Elwynn. We will occasionally revisit Stormwind when its relevance emerges within this narrative. As previously mentioned, owing to their prosperity in the region, the humans of Stormwind began exploring the forests of Elwynn and establishing smaller settlements on the outskirts of the main city. Apart from Stormwind City, one of the earliest settlements in the Elwynn Forest region is nestled within the Northshire Valley. Devout clerics from the Church of the Holy Light arrived in Stormwind and were allocated the Northshire Valley to construct their abbey and establish their residence. These clerics became integral to the kingdom, offering wisdom and solace during challenging periods. Utilising the powers of the light, they provided comfort to the citizens of Stormwind and aided their kingdom's army in numerous battles. One of the other earliest settlements outside the city walls was one that would go on to become one of the most well-known and talked about towns in all of the world, Goldshire. Goldshire's roads connected to Stormwind City in the northwest, Northshire Abbey in the northeast, Westfall in the west, and Lakeshire in the east. Its placement establishes it as a crucial trade centre. Travellers, merchants, adventurers, Stormwind guards, and abbey priests frequently pass through, often relishing the hospitality of the esteemed alehouse Lion's Pride Inn during their travels to and from Stormwind. The humans continued expanding and thriving within the Elwynn Forest for numerous years following the establishment of Stormwind City, up until approximately 75 years before the events of the Dark Portal. It was at this time when the residents of the Elwynn Forest traded in their pitchforks and their hoes for swords and axes, and dedicated all their resources to safeguarding their tranquil land against a formidable and ruthless adversary, the Gnolls. During the expansion of the kingdom's borders, the humans encountered packs of gnolls in the region. These creatures, known for their vicious raids on human towns and convoys, posed a constant threat. However, the deployment of heavily armed groups comprising of soldiers and knights helped maintain some control over the situation, ensuring that Stormwind's territories and frontier regions were guarded. Despite efforts to contain the gnoll threat, the reign of King Baratheon Ryn witnessed a drastic escalation in attacks. The gnoll assaults reached such severity that even the fortified capital of Stormwind faced direct attacks. This dire situation was orchestrated by Packlord Garfang, a cunning and intelligent leader among the gnolls. Garfang united various gnoll packs, demonstrating remarkable strategic skills and amassing an organised army. Facing the imminent gnoll threat and abandoned by neighbouring human kingdoms, King Baratheon devised a bold plan. He led a small contingent of elite knights in a daring strike against Garfang's weakened defences in the Redridge Mountains. This daring move resulted in the successful elimination of the Packlord. The demise of Garfang sent shockwaves through the gnoll population, triggering internal strife and power struggles. The infighting severely crippled the Gnoll's ability to mount large-scale assaults on the kingdom. With the Gnoll forces significantly weakened, King Baratheon rallied Stormwind's armies and launched an offensive against the remaining Gnoll groups in Redridge. His strategic moves and decisive actions culminated in the defeat and near annihilation of the Gnolls in the region. This monumental victory reinforced Stormwind's belief in its self-reliance and capability to handle threats independently. However, this confidence would soon be tested, as the tragic consequences of their over-optimism would become apparent in the future. Following their triumph over the Gnolls, the denizens of Stormwind and the Elwynn Forest returned to their daily routines, turning the soil, nurturing their families, and sustaining themselves from the bountiful forests. However, the cycle of history on Azeroth often repeats itself, and conflict once again befell the lands of the Elwynn Forest. Roughly 5 decades later, with the tales of the Gnoll Wars being passed down to the succeeding generation, it was overshadowed by a new threat to the Kingdom of Stormwind, the Gurubashi Trolls. Around 18 years prior to the First War, the Gurubashi War erupted, involving a massive troll army laying siege to Stormwind City. The conflict had evolved from a series of smaller disputes between the factions, primarily over territories bordering Stranglethorn Vale, where settlers from Stormwind encroached upon. Despite attempts by King Baratheon Ryn to contain the situation, tensions heightened, eventually culminating in Prince Laenrin leading an expedition to strike at the heart of the Gurubashi leadership in central Stranglethorn. This action united the trolls against Stormwind, nearly bringing it to ruin in retaliation for the assassination of their former warlord. However, the kingdom eventually emerged triumphant, largely owing to the intervention of the Guardian Medivh. Following the dispersal of the troll army at Stormwind City's gates, the southern jungle trolls never really posed a significant threat to the kingdom again. The war's end brought almost 2 decades of relative peace to Stormwind, a period that would eventually be interrupted by the outbreak of the First War against the Orcish horde. The people of Azeroth were unaware of the grand scheme being orchestrated by the powerful human mage, Medivh. Seeking to destroy the kingdom of Stormwind and cause widespread chaos across the lands, Medivh collaborated with an otherworldly being named Gul'dan. Together, they utilised their arcane prowess to create a rift, the infamous Dark Portal, linking their 2 worlds. Through this portal emerged the savage Orcish horde, catching the inhabitants of Azeroth by surprise and instilling terror into their hearts. The detailed account of the First War spans across numerous battles and strategic moves. However, our focus will be on its impact specifically within the confines of the Elwynn Forest. A massive horde force besieged Stormwind, encircling the capital city. Fierce battles erupted at the city's defences, engulfing the surroundings in chaos. Yet, a surprise counterattack led by Anduin Lothar and the valiant Knights of Stormwind caught the Orcs off guard, compelling them to retreat temporarily. Nevertheless, the conflict escalated, leading to the destruction of Goldshire and Moonbrook, key settlements within the Kingdom of Stormwind. These 2 losses significantly weakened the kingdom. Orgrim Doomhammer, a mighty Orcish leader, directed his forces to besiege Stormwind Keep. The city's defences were tested to their limits, and eventually fell after the treacherous assassination of the now king, Laenrin, orchestrated by Garona. With the Kingdom of Stormwind's collapse imminent, Anduin Lothar, realising the dire situation, gathered the remaining forces and civilians for a desperate retreat. They sought refuge in the northern kingdom of Lordaeron, beseeching King Menethil II for aid against the relentless Orcish onslaught. Following Stormwind's fall, the Orcish horde established dominance over portions of the Elwynn Forest, marking a bleak chapter in the kingdom's history. Continuing to the next chapter, we approach the events of the Second War. Our focus in this chapter won't delve into the intricate details of the conflict, as the Elwynn Forest's involvement held minimal significance within this narrative. We'll highlight only the relevant aspects. Following the fall of Stormwind, the newly appointed Horde war chief, Orgrim Doomhammer, embarked on a mission to conquer the remaining territories of Azeroth. Recognizing the imminent threat, a gathering of leaders from various human nations took place in Lordaeron, culminating in the establishment of the Alliance of Lordaeron. During the Second War, the Alliance armies forced the Horde back to the Thandalspan bridges, liberating Khazmodan in their pursuit. Engaging Doomhammer's forces in the Burning Steppes, the Alliance achieved a decisive victory, albeit at the cost of losing Anduin Lothar in battle. The war concluded after the climatic battle at the Dark Portal, leading to its destruction. Despite Lothar's absence, the Alliance reclaimed Stormwind's ruins, subsequently regaining control over Elwynn. The reconstruction of the city amassed substantial costs, straining Stormwind's economy and inciting dissatisfaction among its populace. This culminated in the formation of the Defias Brotherhood, composed mostly of discontented middle and lower class individuals, including the unpaid Stonemasons Guild, who had rebuilt Stormwind. Archbishop Alonzus Vale played a pivotal role in the reconstruction of Northshire Abbey. Additionally, he contributed to the establishment of a fresh clerical order, composed of clerics, priests and paladins, known as the Brotherhood of Northshire, serving as a recruitment centre for the Stormwind army. Nevertheless, against all odds, the Elwynn Forest managed to regain much of its former splendour. Over the next nearly 2 decades, time quietly advanced within the Elwynn Forests. It was during these decades the Scourge wreaked havoc in the northern territories of Lordaeron, and conflicts unfolded on the continent of Kalimdor. But this forest, situated in the southern region, was relatively isolated, and maintained an environment of growth and prosperity amidst the ongoing wars elsewhere. By the year 25, a mere 4 years following the Burning Legion's defeat in Kalimdor, the rebuilt capital city of Stormwind and its surrounding lands were flourishing once more. The Elwynn Forest witnessed a surge of fresh adventurers exploring the terrain, seeking new residences, forging new connections, and earnestly pledging their service to the Kingdom of Stormwind in various capacities. The kingdom and the denizens of the Elwynn Forest warmly embraced this wave of new adventurers, frequently offering food, gold, enhanced armour, knowledge, and a spot by the fire at the Lion's Pride Inn, all in exchange for the adventurers' aid. It can be said that the inhabitants of the Elwynn Forest truly capitalised on these newcomers. They dispatched them into the forest to handle minor threats that marginally disrupted the otherwise tranquil life within the woodland. Adventurers initially made their way to Northshire Abbey, aiding Marshal MacBride and the Brotherhood in reducing the wolf population, dealing with the threat from the Defiance Brotherhood, and addressing the kobold issue in the mines. Many esteemed paladins, mages, priests, rogues, warlocks, and warriors walked the halls of the Northshire Abbey, and righteously contributed to the Brotherhood's quest for peace. Upon restoring peace in the Northshire Valley, many adventurers proceeded on to Goldshire, a nearby town adjacent to Stormwind's gates. There they encountered locals like William Pessel, Marshal Duggan, and the infamous figure Remy Two Times. These inhabitants offered further training, wealth, and a safe stay at the Lion's Pride Inn in exchange for dealing with various threats throughout the forest. They succeeded in diminishing the kobold, bear, wolf, boar, and even the dreaded murloc populations. A notable triumph from within the Elwynn Forests at this time was subduing the resurgent Gnoll pack dominating the southwestern Elwynn Forest. The Gnolls, acting as agents for the Defiance Brotherhood, the adventurers confronted Hogger, a Gnoll troubling the region known as Hogger Hill. In a battle that unfortunately led to the death of many adventurers, they managed to defeat the Gnoll. This restored a degree of peace to the forest. Over time, these pledged adventurers expanded their reach across the Kingdom of Stormwind, exploring areas like the Redridge Mountains, Westfall, and the darkness of the region now known as Duskwood, all after gaining more knowledge within their chosen specializations. Though minor threats persisted in the Elwynn Forest, the tales of riches and adventure within the Kingdom of Stormwind continued to spread across Azeroth, and new adventurers continuously arrived, offering their aid and ensuring that the region's dangers remained at bay. Years later, following the resolution of the Blackrock Mountain threat, the defeat of Onyxia, and Kel'Thuzad's downfall in Naxxramas, those adventurers returned to Stormwind City in Elwynn Forest to rest. However, respite was short-lived, as the impending doom loomed over the world during the Burning Crusade in year 26 and the Wrath of the Lich King in year 27. Elwynn Forest had its own ordeal during the Scourge invasion of Stormwind in the war against the Lich King. Despite the valiant efforts of Stormwind's residents and armies in repelling the Scourge, the conflict bore its own share of tragedy and loss. During the retaliatory campaign in Northrend against the Lich King and his forces, the Goldshire unit of the Stormwind army found an opportunity for retribution as part of the Valiant's expedition in the Howling Fjord. When the Scourge threat withdrew from the land, tranquility returned to the trees, allowing life to flourish across the region. However, the tranquility was shattered by the Cataclysm and the return of Deathwing. These events cracked the once natural defences around the kingdom, leaving openings for opportunistic enemies. The Blackrock clan and goblin assassins infiltrated Northshire through the Elwynn Mountains breach. This prompted young human adventurers to repel them in a successful operation. At this time, to safeguard the forest, Stormwind infantry soldiers and patrolling Stormwind Royal Guards were deployed to defend Elwynn. The return of Deathwing marked the beginning of further conflicts across Azeroth, yet the residents of the Elwynn Forest were spared from the atrocities and battles that followed, occurring in distant lands like the Broken Isles, Pandaria, and more recently, the Dragon Isles. Due to the considerable distance between Elwynn Forest and these ongoing wars, it wasn't until year 35 that the forest faced a formidable enemy for a second time, the Scourge. This encounter happened during the war against the Jailer, which triggered an event known as Death Rising. The cataclysmic act of Sylvanas Windrunner shattering the Helm of Domination resulted in the Scourge running amok, wreaking havoc once more across the lands. To combat the undead threat, troops from the Stormwind Army and the Argent Crusade were mobilised to safeguard the region and its inhabitants. The Scourge were once again vanquished from the lands of the Elwynn Forest. Subsequently, peace gradually returned to the area, a phase in which we currently find ourselves in the world of Azeroth. Before concluding the tales of the Elwynn Forest, two significant events need mentioning. The Dark Moon Fair sets up at the outskirts of the forest town, Goldshire. presenting the world's marvel. The origins of the Darkmoon Fair remain relatively unknown, but it's an unmissable source of fun if they're in town. Moreover, Goldshire encounters an attack from the Headless Horseman during the Hallows End period in October. Further details about the Horseman and his motivations can be explored in our dedicated tale, accessible through a secure portal provided below. As we bring our journey through the history of Elwynn Forest to a close, we behold a landscape that has weathered the passage of time and the tumult of war. From the dark shadows cast by the Knoll Wars in the year 75 before the Dark Portal, to the upheaval of the First and Second Wars, this land has witnessed countless struggles. Amidst adversity, Elwynn Forest has seen heroes rise and fall, bravery tested against insurmountable odds, and sacrifices made for the greater good. It has endured the onslaught of invading forces, stood strong amidst the chaos of battle, and over time emerged scarred, but ultimately undefeated. Through each era, the forest's ancient trees have stood witness to the valiant efforts of champions and the sorrow of those who have mourned the fallen. Now moving on and following in the footsteps of young human adventurers, naturally the next zone to be discussed is Westfall. Situated in the southern regions of the Eastern Kingdoms, just east of the lower stretches of the Elwynn Forest and Duskwood, positioned to the south of Stormwind City, lies the farmlands of Westfall. During the rise of the Kingdom of Stormwind, this territory was recognised as Stormwind's breadbasket, fulfilling a crucial role in supplying the kingdom with the grains necessary to feed its expanding population. As the kingdom found itself entangled in numerous conflicts and wars over the years, Westfall bore the brunt of relentless attacks by various enemy forces. The stories of Westfall unfold as a captivating narrative marked by upheaval and strife, making them deserving of recounting in today's narrative. The tale of Westfall commences with the arrival of the humans. Initially the smallest and most secluded human nation, Stormwind gradually thrived, cultivating numerous farmsteads in the fertile surroundings. As Stormwind's population expanded, small towns emerged around the Elwynn Forest, Redridge Mountains, Brightwood, which is now known as Duskwood, and of course, Westfall. The fertile soil of Westfall became a crucial resource for cultivating crops, serving as a lifeline to sustain the growing population of the expanding kingdom. And the kingdom did so for hundreds of years, but this expansion, however, did not unfold without its consequences. The humans of the Kingdom of Stormwind encountered fierce opposition. 75 years before the events of the Dark Portal, humans engaged in skirmishes with a pack of gnolls. These hyena-like humanoids inhabited the forest lands surrounding the emerging kingdom. While not typically known for their military tactical intelligence, the gnolls quickly grasped that Westfall served as a vital lifeline to the human kingdom and noticed that it had been left unguarded. Orchestrated by Pack Lord Garfang, a cunning leader among the gnolls, they raided the area and set many farmsteads ablaze, severing the link between significant resources and the people of Stormwind. Faced with the escalating gnoll threat, King Barathon and the Stormwind army devised a bold strategy, a plan to strike at the heart of the gnoll forces. We've already recounted the comprehensive details of the Gnoll Wars in the library, and they're not particularly relevant to the tale of Westfall. Following their victory over the gnolls, the inhabitants of the kingdom returned to their daily routines, cultivating the soil, nurturing their families, and drawing sustenance from the fertile land of Westfall. However, the cyclical nature of history on Azeroth unfolded once more, and conflict descended upon the lands of the kingdom once again. Approximately 5 decades later, the tales of the Gnoll Wars, passed down to the succeeding generation, were eclipsed by a new threat to the kingdom: the Gurubashi trolls. After the Gnoll Wars became a mere campfire story, the humans, either not heeding the lessons learned or considering themselves too powerful, continued to expand and ventured into the lush jungles of the Stranglethorn Vale, the native land of the formidable Gurubashi trolls. With the humans encroaching on troll territory, the trolls decided to send a warning. A troll raiding party eluded Stormwind's patrol lines and wreaked havoc through Westfall, reducing 3 of its towns to ashes. Although Stormwind's soldiers eventually caught and defeated the troll raiders, it was too late for dozens of the humans, and their deaths were marked by brutality. Similar to the story of the Gnoll Wars, the complete details of the Gurubashi War can be explored in our tale centred on the Stranglethorn Vale. Following triumphs over the Gurubashi trolls, the realm had successfully vanquished 2 primary perils in the region, nearly eradicating the gnolls and forcing the trolls to withdraw into the jungle's depths to recover. While the kingdom started to regain confidence again, unbeknownst to them, there was an impending threat preparing to transcend to the earthly realm. As Medivh, the former hero who saved the city during the Gurubashi War, conjured the Dark Portal in collaboration with the Orcish horde warlock, Gul'dan, the merciless horde surged through, thrusting themselves into the relatively tranquil realms of Azeroth. In the First War, Warchief Blackhand, chieftain of the mighty Blackrock clan and the first warchief of the Old Horde, commanded raiding parties to penetrate deep into the Stormwind territories, aiming to sow panic among the human populace. Entire villages in Westfall succumbed to the control of the Old Horde, their inhabitants either slain or forced to flee. The assault on Westfall by the Horde would become the third episode of turmoil that the citizens of Westfall endured within a span of just 75 years. However, despite the horrors faced by the people of Westfall during these years, the true disturbance was yet to unfold. Following the Alliance victory against the Orcish horde at the end of the Second War, the territories of Stormwind were reclaimed by the Alliance of Lordaeron, the returning people of the kingdom, and with the assistance of Supreme Commander Turellion. He played a vital role in overseeing efforts to bring back the kingdom's citizens and secure Varian Rin's position as the next king. Upon their return to the now devastated lands that were once the flourishing kingdom, the entire capital city required extensive reconstruction. This colossal undertaking was entrusted to the Stonemasons Guild, a collective of highly skilled artisans and builders led by their elected leader, Edwin Van Cleef. The stonemasons had already demonstrated their expertise with their previous project, Netherguard Keep, an alliance fortress constructed in the mountains of the Blasted Lands with the sole mission of overseeing the destroyed Dark Portal and preventing further disturbances. Through hard, honest work and with the will of human determination, the stonemasons successfully restored Stormwind to its former glory. But they faced a setback when they were seeking payment for their diligent work. The House of Nobles, influenced by Lady Katrana Prestor's manipulations and burdened by existing debts, refused the payment of the stonemasons. Prestor's secret interference during the city's reconstruction left the nobility dissatisfied with the Stonemason Guild's craftsmanship. As noted by the Stormwind Intelligence Agency, the nobles had incurred a significant debt from the military expansions, leading to economic distress for the kingdom and unfulfilled promises to Van Cleef and his stonemasons. Simultaneously, the workers, angered by the threat of withheld payment for their honest labour, witnessed Edwin Van Cleef vocally demanding restitution. This outspoken stance outraged the nobles, prompting them to order the disbandment of the Stonemasons Guild. Understandably, this decision further fueled the anger of Van Cleef and his fellow workers. Van Cleef and the stonemasons incited a riot in the newly reconstructed Stormwind City, resulting in dangerous chaos. Tragically, Queen Tiffin Rin, a strong supporter for the payment of these workers, lost her life. When a stone was thrown, it struck her head as she tried to pacify the rioting stonemasons. King Varian, enraged and grieving, responded with harsh measures against the rioters, forcibly expelling the stonemasons from the city. Aware that Varian's anger would never subside, many were compelled to go into hiding. Edwin Van Cleef and the stonemasons sought refuge in rural areas like Westfall, waiting for the tensions to ease. In this period, the esteemed Guildmaster Van Cleef, with discreet and malicious backing from Lady Katrana, united the disgruntled stonemasons and founded the Defias Brotherhood. Over time, the Brotherhood expanded its ranks, attracting skilled individuals, the desperate, outcasts, and anyone with a hatred for the Kingdom of Stormwind. Utilizing his expertise and leadership, Van Cleef essentially transformed the once respected Stonemasons Guild into a formidable small army, a coalition of thieves, bandits, and ruthless mercenaries. In the subsequent years, the Defias Brotherhood gradually asserted control over the agricultural expanses of Westfall, compelling the majority of residents to evacuate. They seized significant territories for their own use, leaving only a limited contingent of humans still loyal to the Kingdom of Stormwind in Westfall. The upheaval faced by Westfall during the ascent of the Defias Brotherhood was documented by the renowned explorer Bran Bronzebeard. Following his extensive travels and surveys of the southern regions of the continent post the Second War, Bran finally reached Westfall. He was taken aback to discover deserted farms and vast expanses of neglected cropland. As he explored the desolate landscape, he stumbled upon a handful of isolated, empty farms where he uncovered only remnants of the humans who had once tirelessly worked the land. Upon reaching the deserted mining town of Moonbrook, he clashed with agents of the Defias Brotherhood and a menacing harvest golem before departing Westfall, heading towards Stranglethorn Vale. In the years that followed, the Brotherhood continued to take control over more of the land. The small group of humans that remained in Westfall mainly congregated around Sentinel Hill. Potentially inspired by the dominance they had asserted over Westfall, the Defias Brotherhood made a bold move by challenging one of Azeroth's most ruthless factions, the Bloodsail Buccaneers. The Bloodsail Buccaneer captain, Jarius Bloodvein, orchestrated the abduction of 3 boys off the coast of Westfall as a retaliatory measure. The Buccaneers seized James, Jimmy Blackridge, Liam, and Bram Woodring, who all hailed from honest farming families in Elwynn Forest. This act was an eye for an eye response to the Defias Brotherhood, who had previously killed 3 of the Buccaneers. Held captive on a sailing ship, the boys had no choice but to adapt to the pirate life for survival. The boys would later be forced to partake in a revenge-fueled raid on the Dead Mines. The detailed narrative of this encounter is available in our dedicated story covering the Bloodsail Buccaneers. The Defias Brotherhood fended off the Bloodsail Buccaneers and emerged victorious, solidifying their reputation as a formidable and unbeatable fighting force. The Defias Brotherhood, in need of a secure base for planning their retaliation against Stormwind, their leader Edwin Van Cleef selected the Dead Mines, an abandoned mining network concealed beneath a barn in Moonbrook in Westfall. Before the First War, the Dead Mines stood as the primary gold production centre in the human lands, contributing a significant portion of wealth to Stormwind's treasure reserves. Notably, Sir Anduin Lothar once ventured into the perilous Dead Mines, facing ogres during his quest for the Tome of Divinity. Despite being held captive for 20 months, Lothar eventually triumphed and completed his mission. The dungeons beneath the Dead Mines also played host to Blackhand's daughter, Griselda, who fled there with the ogre, Turok. Both met their demise during an Orcish raid, and following the chaos of the First War, the mines were abandoned and believed to be haunted, preserving them from any significant disturbances. For a time, Captain Bramblebeard and his crew took refuge in the caves until the arrival of the Defias Brotherhood. From this subterranean stronghold, Edwin Van Cleef supervised the construction of a colossal juggernaut naval vessel. The ultimate plan was to employ this formidable vessel to unleash destruction upon Stormwind from the sea. This nefarious group was resolute in causing mayhem and ultimately annihilating the House of Nobles in Stormwind City. It was from the Dead Mines that Edwin Van Cleef gave his orders to the Brotherhood. The Defias successfully seized control of portions of Elwynn Forest, Duskwood, Westfall, and they even briefly disrupted the Stormwind Stockade by taking control of the prison in the capital. The Brotherhood's influence didn't stop there, and it even extended into the peaceful Northshire Valley. In the vicinity of Stormwind and Elwynn Forest, the Defias Brotherhood honed the craft of ambush, making it extremely challenging for caravans to navigate the woods without interference, despite the protection provided by the Stormwind City Guard. The guards, facing manpower constraints, couldn't effectively pursue the Brotherhood into their Westfall base, so consequently the local farmers and villagers united to form the People's Militia, aiming to resist the Brotherhood's activities. The People's Militia originated as a volunteer military group centred in Westfall with the primary objective of countering the Brotherhood. Its establishment stemmed from the prevailing sentiment in the area that Stormwind had abandoned Westfall. Headquartered in Sentinel Hill, the militia's guardians were also deployed along several nearby roads. The militia actively recruited young adventurers to address issues such as reducing the local gnoll population and handling other assorted threats. Brian Stoutmantle, their leader, coordinated operations from the lower section of Sentinel Tower in Sentinel Hill. In pursuit of their objectives, the Defias Brotherhood aligned themselves with various allies, including the Riverpaw Gnolls of Westfall and the Kobolds of Elwynn Forest. Additionally, there was some form of agreement between Edwin Van Cleef and the Bloodsail Buccaneers near Booty Bay regarding the construction of the Juggernaut. The Defias Brotherhood also orchestrated a daring and unprecedented feat with the help of their allies worldwide, the kidnapping of the King of Stormwind. Following the aftermath of the Third War, King Varian Wrynn travelled to Theramore for discussions with Lady Jaina Proudmoore concerning Horde and Alliance relations. It was during this journey that Varian Wrynn fell victim to the Defias, who had been informed of this diplomatic mission through a suspected spy within the Kingdom of Stormwind. Speculation suggested that he was taken to Alkaz Island and held captive by the Defias' allies, the Strashaz Naga. While the epic tale of Varian Rin's ordeal deserves its own narrative, this incident stands as a testament to the formidable strength of the Defias Brotherhood. As the threat posed by the Brotherhood intensified and the King of Stormwind went missing, the kingdom descended into chaos. The People's Militia, recognizing the need to quell the unrest caused by the Brotherhood, took action. In a bid to unveil the Defias headquarters and expose their leader's identity, Stoutmantle dispatched an adventurer to rendezvous with Wily the Black at Lakeshire's Inn. The rogue, risking his life, conveyed vital information about the Defias collaborating with various groups, including gnolls, kobolds and the goblins. Learning of the Defias' connection to the stonemasons, Stoutmantle sought additional details from Matthias Shaw of the Stormwind Intelligence Agency. With all of this assistance, he confirmed that the leader of the Brotherhood was none other than Edwin Van Cleef, the former head of the Stonemasons Guild responsible for rebuilding Stormwind City post the Orcish devastation. To validate this information, he dispatched an adventurer to intercept a messenger, ultimately confirming Van Cleef's identity as the Kingpin. Simultaneously, Stoutmantle and the People's Militia apprehended a thief attempting to pilfer Saldine's wagon, coercing the thief, who would later be known as the Defias traitor, to reveal the Defias secret hideout's location. Stoutmantle discovered that the Brotherhood leaders were concealed in the dead mines within the town of Moonbrook. Once again, he called upon Alliance heroes, sending them on a mission to eliminate Edwin Van Cleef. The infiltration of the dead mines by the Alliance heroes and the People's Militia would be remembered as one of the most awe-inspiring missions in Azeroth's history. They encountered formidable Defias forces, comprising of miners, magicians, watchmen, and henchmen. Additionally, they faced various goblins, ogres, and undead, all aligned with the Brotherhood. Navigating the depths of these mines, they reached the Ironclad Cove and the Juggernaut naval vessel, where confrontations with Mr. Smite and Captain Greenskin ensued. Progressing to the summit of the vessel, they confronted Van Cleef's henchmen, emerging victorious. With Van Cleef's sidekicks defeated, they faced the Kingpin himself in a decisive battle. The adventurers triumphed, believing they had put an end to the Brotherhood once and for all. Retrieving an unsent letter and Van Cleef's head, they returned to Stoutmantle. He asserted that Van Cleef's demise marked the conclusion of the Defias Brotherhood. However, after these events, there were lingering rumours. Some believed that the threat of the Brotherhood might still loom, and these concerns would be true. The Kingdom of Stormwind and the People's Militia had failed to eliminate the Defias menace, and also failed to extinguish the Van Cleef bloodline. Subsequent events revealed that despite Van Cleef's death, the Brotherhood's plans to undermine the Kingdom of Stormwind would continue on, fueled by Van Cleef's grieving daughter, Vanessa. The stories of the Defias Brotherhood pretty much dominate the narrative of Westfall, but it's important to recognise that the residents of Westfall faced various additional trials during this period. Harvest Watchers seized control of several farms in the aftermath of the Defias chaos, while murlocs infested the nearby beaches, posing a continuous danger to anyone venturing into their territory. Upon first arrival in the zone, adventurers were tasked with addressing these challenges. They not only helped purge the area of these threats, but also assisted in providing food to the remaining community members. Years later, as the remnants of the Brotherhood withdrew to their underground stronghold to regroup, the kingdom's focus shifted away from Westfall once more amid the unfolding events of the Burning Crusade. The residents of Westfall continued their traumatic and precarious existence in relative obscurity, and this persisted until the Alliance summoned the People's Militia during the war against the Lich King. Having proven their valour in battling the Defias Brotherhood, the Alliance enlisted the People's Militia to join the Valiant's expedition in Northrend, a call they readily answered given their allegiance to the Alliance. Led by the newly promoted Captain Stoutmantle, the militia underwent a transformation, rebranding themselves as the Westfall Brigade. They established their headquarters, the Westfall Brigade Encampment, in the northern reaches of the Grizzly Hills, and were tasked with finding passage into the Northern Territories and securing vital resources in the region. Upon their return from Northrend following the war against the Lich King, the brigade found Westfall in complete disarray. The conflict in Northrend had had an effect on the Eastern Kingdoms. It had rendered thousands of citizens from the kingdom homeless, leading many to seek refuge in Westfall and occupy the abandoned properties left in the wake of the war. And if coming back from war to face economic issues wasn't bad enough, sometime later, the citizens of Westfall would become entangled in events involving the Dark Riders. The Dark Riders were deceitful traders attempting to peddle counterfeit magical relics to Medivh. However, Medivh, at the time under the influence of Sargeras, cursed them as a punishment for their dishonesty. Their curse bound them to retrieve authentic magical artifacts from across the kingdom and deliver them to Karazhan. The exact nature of the curse remains unclear, and whether they are undead or not is unknown. Nevertheless, the Dark Riders have plagued the Kingdom of Stormwind, and particularly Duskwood, ever since. Revel Cost, a faithful priest of the Church of the Holy Light, had found himself in Westfall while searching for the Cloak of Purity. It was here he encountered Carlane, a mage also in search of a missing artifact. Sensing the looming threat of the Dark Riders, who would also be hunting for these artifacts, the two decided to join forces. However, their journey was soon interrupted by an attack from the Defias Brotherhood as they made their way to meet their contact, Tanos, in Gold Coast Quarry. In desperate defense, Tanos revealed the existence of a secret artifact known as the Hand of Azora and used it against the Defias assailants. This action drew the attention of the Dark Riders, who suddenly appeared and intervened. They severed Tanos' hand before beheading him, claiming the artifact for themselves. This encounter with death was not Revel's first. Years ago, his family had fallen victim to a savage attack by summoned Worgen. Filled with determination, Revel mounted a horse to pursue the Dark Riders, while Carlane returned to Elwynn to report Tanos' tragic demise. Revel would go on to track the Dark Riders into the forests of Duskwood. His story is told in our dedicated tale of the lore of Duskwood. When many of the citizens of Westfall returned home from Northrend, the economic state of the region wasn't the only issue. They also had to battle against the elements. The people of Westfall faced severe challenges as tidal waves and storms wreaked havoc on the shores of the zone, leaving even more residents homeless and bankrupt, particularly those who were not involved in the previous military service. The Westfall Brigade took up the task of fortifying Sentinel Hill and addressing the aftermath of the Defias Brotherhood's havoc, expanding the Alliance's influence with the backing of King Varian Rin. However, their struggles were overshadowed by the catastrophic return of Deathwing the Destroyer and the Cataclysm. The Cataclysm swept across the Eastern Kingdoms, leaving no corner untouched, and Westfall was no exception to its devastation. The events ravaged Westfall, creating the massive raging chasm that consumed parts of the Molson Farm and the Alexton Farmstead. In the aftermath, many farmers, led by Thurman Grant, departed Westfall to resettle in the rejuvenated lands in the Western Plaguelands. The kingdom responded to the devastation in Westfall by sending supplies, troops and siege engines to aid in the region's reconstruction and provide shelter for Stormwind citizens displaced by the Cataclysm. Yet, their efforts were impeded by the resurgence of an old enemy. Despite the significant blow dealt to the Brotherhood's leadership, including the demise of Edwin Van Cleef, the Defias Brotherhood staged a comeback. Stepping into her father's shoes, Edwin's daughter, Vanessa, assumed leadership of the Defias with a singular mission: to avenge her father's death by striking back at Stormwind. Lieutenant Horatio Lane's investigations into a murder at Philbro's pumpkin farm gradually unveiled Vanessa Van Cleef's scheme. Vanessa stoked anti-Stormwind sentiments, rebuilding the Brotherhood's forces and amassing allies to support their cause. Her cunning leadership and deception kept these preparations concealed until they were set in motion. When her forces were ready, Vanessa orchestrated a surprise assault on Sentinel Hill, reducing Stormwind's stronghold in Westfall to ashes. Inheriting her father's ambition, Vanessa embarked on utilising the Juggernaut again, intending to wield its destructive power to obliterate Stormwind once and for all. Following intense clashes between Stormwind's forces and the Brotherhood, a band of Alliance heroes infiltrated Vanessa's stronghold once again, the Deadmines. After vanquishing the remaining Defias forces, they confronted Vanessa atop the Juggernaut, just like they had confronted her father. Faced with defeat, Vanessa triggered a series of explosions, choosing to go down with her ship rather than surrendering to her enemies.
My fate is my own!
Amidst the third invasion of the Burning Legion, Westfall became a primary target for the Legion's onslaught, enduring relentless assaults from these demonic hordes. Under the steadfast leadership of Stoutmantle, the Stormwind army valiantly defended Westfall alongside adventurers from both the Alliance and the Horde, as well as the Illidari. The Illidari established a temporary camp to aid in repelling the demonic onslaught before departing once the threat had subsided. In a remarkable show of resilience, farmhands transformed into makeshift militias, arming themselves to fend off the demonic invaders. With the Defias Brotherhood gone from the region, the Deadmines fell into an eerie silence. Captain Klutz, a lone surviving hobgoblin, found solace amidst the mine's abandoned animals, adopting them as his own. It was during this time that a terrible fact was revealed. Vanessa Van Cleef, the leader of the Defias Brotherhood, had survived. She had somehow managed to poison and cloud adventurers' minds, allowing her to fake her own death. Seeking refuge and assistance from Lord Ravenholt, Vanessa ultimately joined the Uncrowned. Despite her initial attempt to eliminate the last Shadow and seize control over the Council of Shadows, Vanessa found herself bound by loyalty to the Uncrowned, pledging the Brotherhood's allegiance to the cause. The Defias integrated into the Hall of Shadows beneath Dalaran, with Lonica Stillblade and the Rogue Academy spearheading the recruitment and training of new Brotherhood thieves as agents of the Uncrowned. The organisation's ranks swelled, now encompassing Blood Elves, Night Elves and the Forsaken among its members. It was then that the Brotherhood officially relinquished the Deadmines. Only a lingering spirit serves as a spectral reminder of the Brotherhood's former presence there. Throughout the campaign on Argus, Defias thieves stood shoulder to shoulder with the agents of the Uncrowned and the armies of Legionfall, battling against the demonic forces. Moving back to the region of Westfall, after these events, Sentinel Hill was rebuilt and fortified, while the Westfall Brigade collaborated with the Stormwind Intelligence Agency to maintain order in the region, apprehend troublemakers and deter the disorderly Nullpacks following Hogger's demise. In the years following the defeat of the Burning Legion, Vanessa Van Cleef struck a deal with Matthias Shaw. If she kept the Defias Brotherhood in check, the Stormwind Intelligence Agency wouldn't pursue them for their crimes. Despite her efforts to curb their banditry and focus on aiding Westfall's people, King Anduin Rin's reforms brought increased aid and resources to the region, dimming the revolutionary fervour. Moreover, King Anduin offered pardons and reparations to former stonemasons and their families, prompting them to abandon the life of banditry and return to Stormwind City as citizens. This left the Brotherhood with only ruthless criminals willing to prey on innocents for the fun of it. Sometime later, a disgraced noble named Count Clesington convinced the remaining Defias in Westfall to betray Vanessa Van Cleef. He orchestrated the theft of the Drakefire amulet from Stormwind Keep and dispatched his agents to Moonbrook to eliminate any obstacles. In the Deadmines, Count Clesington and Duncan Ratspun manipulated the Defias, using the artifact's powers to incite them to march on Northshire Abbey, aiming to utilise it as a base for pillaging Stormwind City. Witnessing how easily one corrupted noble turned the Brotherhood against her, Vanessa realised she no longer belonged. She departed from the Brotherhood and urged her loyal followers to return to their families and assist Westfall in different ways. Subsequently, the Breadbasket Guild emerged, formed by a coalition of Westfall farmers, former Defias members, and war refugees, all dedicated to aiding the region and its inhabitants. Their endeavours focused on revitalising farms, constructing proper homes and fostering community. With the backing of Countess Cecilia Clesington in the House of Nobles, the guild formalised its organisation to seek support from the kingdom. And so, it appears the story of Westfall has completed its journey and come full circle, returning to an era of serene farmlands that sustain its supportive kingdom with the essential resources it requires. As the sun sets over the golden lands of Westfall, we bid farewell to a tale filled with triumphs, tragedies, and the enduring spirit of its people. From the earliest days of settlement to the times of war and strife, Westfall has weathered every storm. The echoes of history resonate through these tranquil farmlands, reminding us of sacrifices made and the battles fought to secure a future for generations to come. From the Knoll Wars to the resurgence of the Defias Brotherhood, each chapter in Westfall's story has left a mark on its landscape and, of course, its people. Moving on from the lands of Westfall, once again following in the footsteps of the adventurers who have walked these roads before, we will now travel east to the Redridge Mountains. Located in the southern regions of the Eastern Kingdoms, Redridge is encompassed by the rugged mountains of the Burning Steppes to the north. To the south, it shares borders with the perilous Swamp of Sorrows and Deadwind Pass, and the western side of the Redridge Mountains mirrors the scenic landscapes of the beautiful Elwynn Forest. But, however tranquil the landscape may seem, peril hides in every corner, presenting us with tales deserving of narration. The narrative of the Redridge Mountains starts a staggering 10,000 years in the past, during the War of the Ancients. This major conflict marked the initial arrival of the demonic Burning Legion to Azeroth. The War of the Ancients, among the largest and most costly wars in Azeroth's history, played a pivotal role in shaping the destiny of all life on the planet for millennia to come. The conflict culminated in the Great Sundering, a cataclysmic event that tore apart the once ancient landmass. In the period preceding the War of the Ancients, Neltharion, one of the dragon aspects and leader of the Black Dragonflight, using his goblin servants, crafted a remarkably powerful artifact, a golden, perfect disc attached to a chain forged of elementium, the Dragon Soul. Infused with the power of his old god masters, as well as the essence of dragons and demons, the artifact was intended to grant Neltharion control over the other dragonflights, envisioning himself as a god to be worshipped by mortal races. In the climatic battle against the Burning Legion, Neltharion, the corrupted leader of the Black Dragonflight, harnessed the dragons of all the other flights in a magical matrix, amplifying the device's power significantly. However, in a shocking twist, Neltharion revealed his madness, wielding the Dragon Soul to unleash devastation on the Burning Legion, the vulnerable Night Elves, and the other dragonflights. His actions resulted in the death of thousands, as he demanded that all of Azeroth, including the other dragonflights and the Great Aspects, submit to his dominion. Following the completion of this world-shattering event, Malfurion and the 4 remaining aspects cast a spell on the Dragon Soul to prevent Deathwing from wielding it again. They concealed the accursed disc in a location known only to those 4 dragons, ensuring Deathwing's unawareness. This hidden place happened to be the Redridge Mountains. A red dragon named Orcish was entrusted with the duty of safeguarding the Dragon Soul in its hidden resting place, where it remained for millennia, an artifact of immense power capable of dominating the world, concealed beneath the tranquil Redridge Mountains. Following Deathwing's return to his lair, he entered a deep slumber. Requiring time for recovery from the injuries inflicted by the use of the Dragon Soul, he rested to restore his strength. Throughout this extended absence, the other dragonflights relentlessly pursued his corrupted Black Dragonflight, driving it to the verge of extinction. As Stormwind's population expanded, small towns emerged around Elwynn Forest, spreading into Westfall, Brightwood, now known as Duskwood, and of course, the Redridge Mountains. Though initially claimed by the humans, the dwarven Dark Iron clan established its own kingdom in the northern regions of the mountain ranges within Redridge. Seeking refuge after the War of the Three Hammers, they recognised that victory over the other dwarves was no longer attainable through conventional means, and anticipating imminent defeat, Thorson, alongside the Seven, delved into forbidden knowledge. Approximately 200 years prior to the opening of the Dark Portal, they summoned the mighty Fire Lord, Ragnaros, to the area now recognised as the Molten Core, aiming to obliterate their enemies once and for all. Grossly underestimating the formidable power of the Lord of Fire, Thorson, the Seven, and numerous other Dark Irons perished instantly in the ensuing inferno. This event not only claiming a vast portion of the northern ranges of the Redridge Mountains, it also gave rise to the imposing Blackrock Spire. Despite all of these events, the humans still managed to flourish in the undisturbed southern regions of the Redridge Mountains. This tranquility endured for several decades, only to be disrupted by the arrival of the Orcish horde following the opening of the Dark Portal. Because of its proximity to the Dark Portal in the Black Morass, situated just south of Redridge, this region was among the earliest to face invasion by the Orcish horde during the First War. The havoc wrought by the marauding Orcish horde compelled the Alliance to withdraw northward, granting the Orcs unrestricted control over the regions, leading to utter devastation. The Orcs took possession of the land, initiating construction and resource gathering to bolster their war effort against the Alliance. The Horde, in pursuit of absolute dominance, followed the Alliance's path northward, recognising the strategic significance of the Blackrock Mountain as a crucial geographical obstacle. Upon the horde's assault on the mountain, the Dark Iron Dwarves, under their Fire Lord Ragnaros, willingly permitted the horde to seize the spire, establishing it as their new headquarters. When the Dark Portal, bridging Azeroth and Draenor, was opened by Medivh and Gul'dan, the surge of magic stirred Deathwing from his slumber. Observing the conflict between the Kingdom of Stormwind and the Horde during the First War, Deathwing became fascinated and saw the Orcs as a potential means to restore his Dragonflight's former glory. However, a complication arose in Deathwing's grand scheme. The Horde had been weakened by the First War, and if the human kingdoms united, the Orcs wouldn't have the strength to overcome them. Then, years later during the Second War, Deathwing discovered the Dragon Soul's location. He communicated visions to Zuluhead the Whacked, chieftain of the Dragonmaw clan, revealing dreams of taming and riding dragons just like they had done in their native lands, the other side of the Dark Portal. Enticed by the prospect of once again soaring in the sky, Zuluhead couldn't resist. Deathwing guided Zuluhead to the Redridge Mountains, where the Dragon Soul lay hidden deep beneath the ground, guarded by wards and the Red Dragon Orcish, untouched for 10 millennia. Despite numerous losses against Orcish, unfamiliar with dragon combat, the Dragonmaw Orcs ultimately succeeded and killed Orcish. Zuluhead tasked the clan's most prestigious warlock, Necros Skullcrusher, with retrieving the Dragon Soul, which he then renamed it to the Demon Soul. Far from the Redridge Mountains, Alexstrasza sensed the wards breaking and, growing concerned with Orcish' silence, journeyed south with several red dragons, believing that some mortal had found the disc and Orcish was searching for it. She thought assisting him would be easy, but unbeknownst to them, they were walking into Deathwing's trap. From this point onward, some of the stories of Deathwing and some of the stories of the Orcish Horde extend beyond the serene mountains of Redridge, narratives that will be recounted on different occasions. But for the purpose of this tale, and to focus on the lore of Redridge, we need to skip the intricate details of the First and the Second War. The Orcs were eventually repelled back to the Dark Portal, which was subsequently destroyed by the Alliance. This left scattered Orc clans across the continent. Some were confined to internment camps by the Alliance, while others withdrew into the untamed wilderness of this new unfamiliar land. Two of these lingering Orc clans included the Blackrock clan and the Blacktooth Grin clan. These two clans, assembled with other Horde remnants, predominantly comprised of survivors from the Blackrock clan, and bided their time until the Alliance withdrew its forces from the region surrounding Burning Steppes and the Redridge Mountains. Seizing the opportunity, the Orcs covertly infiltrated Blackrock Spire and seized control of the stronghold once again. Gradually, over time, the Orcs gained confidence and explored out into the neighbouring territories, seeking places to rebuild their lives. In time, they formed an alliance with the sinister human warlock Morganth. Together, they took control of the eastern half of the lower Redridge Mountains, capturing the human stronghold of Stonewatch Keep. Amid political unrest in Stormwind, Redridge's major town, Lakeshire, found itself with minimal military support against the advancing Orcs, and that was up until the return of Reginald Windsor, who assumed leadership in the fight against the Orcs in Blackrock Mountain, becoming an inspiration to many. Around the 17th year after the events of the opening of the Dark Portal, Graydon Thorn and Saya Northbrook married and established their residence in a cottage in the Redridge Mountains. They welcomed their son to the family, Aramar Thorn. However, after 6 years, Graydon abandoned the family. 2 years later, Magistrate Solomon declared Graydon dead, enabling Saya to marry Rob Glade, one of Lakeshire's finest blacksmiths. Rob moved from his forge to Saya's cottage, where he constructed a new forge alongside where they were living. Their residence became known as the Glade Cottage, and they eventually had 2 more children. Aram spent his childhood here, learning the blacksmith craft from his stepfather. Along with his dog, Suit, and his friends, Stitch and Willie, they would often play amongst the beautiful landscape that the Redridge Mountains offered. Like Westfall and Duskwood, the Redridge Mountains were also theoretically protected by the Stormwind army, and like the other 2 regions, the residents of the Redridge Mountains were mostly left to their own devices. However, there was a small guard platoon stationed in Lakeshire to maintain order in the town, and they originally had a garrison of soldiers in Stonewatch, but were later forced out when they were overrun by Blackrock Orcs who were fueled by the evil magic of Morganth. Shortly after the Orcs took over Stonewatch Keep, Morganth turned on his Orcish cohorts. He constructed an arcane tower, the Tower of Ilgalar, and used his powers to build a small army of Shadowhide gnolls led by Lieutenant Fangor. The gnolls had one purpose: to serve his malicious bidding. Meanwhile, the Blackrock Orcs continued to assault Lakeshire in their bid to conquer Redridge. Lakeshire continued to fend them off, but they were sorely in need of more reinforcements. During one of the Blackrock Orc assaults on the town, Everstill Bridge was badly damaged, making it that little bit more difficult to get supplies from the Kingdom of Stormwind. Foreman Oslo led a crew of bridge workers in repairing the bridge, but their work was slowed due to losing various supplies to the Orc invasions. The Dwarves of Ironforge sent a group to Lakeshire's aid against the Blackrock Orcs, consisting of Princess Moira Bronzebeard and her retinue, but during their journey down, they were ambushed and captured in the Burning Steppes. Sometime later, Halindis Riverhorn gave Magistrate Solomon evidence that the Blackrock Orcs were allying themselves with the Black Dragonfly. Solomon relayed this information to High Lord Bolvar Fordragon and pleaded with him to mobilise the Stormwind army to contend with this grave threat to the kingdom. Bolvar, however, was debilitated from sending Stormwind's thinly spread troops to aid Lakeshire without more proof. Bolvar sent alliance adventurers to Lady Katrana Prestor, who knew much about dragons and the Dragonkin. However, Lady Prestor thought very little of Magistrate Solomon's claims and advised against providing military aid. Though Bolvar respected Lady Prestor's stance, he could not let Solomon's plight go unheeded and thought of a compromise to appease all parties, so Bolvar deputized the adventurers and empowered them to solve Solomon's problems, and it was very much needed. Lakeshire was under constant attack from the Blackrock Orcs and the Shadowhide gnolls. Throughout all of it, the town still lacked proper defence. Solomon and Marshal Maris had to enlist the aid of these adventurers to deal with the hostile Orc and Gnoll incursions, and dealt with them by dispatching their prominent leaders. Meanwhile, agents of Theocritus were sent to dispatch Morganth to end his evil once and for all. Aside from Gnolls and Orcs, Lakeshire also faced a Murloc problem, and occasionally employed adventurers to cull their numbers in order to preserve Lake Everstill's fish stock. After enduring and quelling the Gnoll and Orc threats in the region, the residents of the Redridge Mountains faced a period of relative tranquility when compared to the citizens of other regions. There are no notable tales worth mentioning in this narrative during the period between the 25th year all the way up to the Cataclysm in the 28th year, after the events of the Dark Portal. As the adventurers battled in Outland and then set sail for Northrend during the war against the Lich King, these serene mountain ranges remained a relatively safe haven. In the aftermath of the Cataclysm and the resurgence of Deathwing the Destroyer, the Black Dragonfly regained power. Darkblaze, a black dragon, formed an alliance with the Dark Horde, Orc remnants that had returned to the Blackrock Spire after the Second War, and launched an assault on Red Ridge once again. A deputy of the Stormwind army, an adventurer from the Alliance, journeyed to Red Ridge to assist the besieged Stormwind guards and revive the Bravo Company to confront this danger. While engaging in conflict with the Blackrock Orcs, Render's Valley suffered destruction, but the Dark Horde was repelled back to the Burning Steppes once again, and additionally Stonewatch Keep was successfully recaptured. Alongside the victory over the keep, strengthening Redridge's defences, the Kingdom of Stormwind erected Tower Watch on the three corners and stationed a garrison of Redridge watchmen to patrol there. This part of our narrative now shifts the focus onto that of a weapon, the Diamond Blade. This sacred weapon of the light was granted to Graydon Thorn by Anaru several years prior to the Third War. As the leader of the Order of the Seven Sons, his duty was to protect the Naru, which had bestowed its grace to safeguard Azeroth from the Darkstorm, a formidable magical force capable of unmaking and destroying both the world and its inhabitants. In a tale for another time, the blades shattered, and their fragments were scattered across Azeroth. Over the next 5 years, Graydon diligently searched for the shards using a magical compass that guided him to these crystal fragments. During an attack by their rivals, the hidden Graydon ship, the Wavestrider, was destroyed and Graydon was captured. Before his capture, he entrusted his magical compass to Aram and Makasa Flintwill, directing them to the coast of Feralus. Venturing through the forests of Feralus, the flooded Thousand Needles, and the deserts of Tanaris, facing adversaries like Malus and the hidden Aram and Makasa, forged new alliances and discovered crystal shards guided by the compass. We have more details on the tales of Aramar Thorn and his journey through Feralus in our narrative of Feralus. A safe portal can be found in the description below. As the first 3 crystals were found, they seamlessly merged, forming the hilt of the sword. The compass now pointed to its next location, the Redridge Mountains. Sometime later, the Hidden captured Aram, but knowing the importance of their task, Mikasa pressed on with their quest. Acknowledging that the last direction was Lakeshire, 1 year after the return of Deathwing, she and her companions journeyed to the Redridge Mountains. Utilizing the compass's crystal and the guidance of the Voice of the Light, Mikasa located the remaining crystal shards. The initial shard lay in Lakeshire, situated in the Glades' house backyard. The second one resided within a cave northeast of the village, safeguarded by a blue drake named Telagos for numerous years. The final shard was discovered in a mine shaft within the Lakeshire quarry. As she and her allies gathered these fragments, the crystals reconstructed into a complete blade. Holding the blade, Mikasa rallied her friends and allies to convene at the Dark Portal, embarking on a mission to assault the hidden citadel in Hellfire Peninsula. There, Aram and Graydon were held captive, and Malus possessed the hilt of the Diamond Blade. Of course, the tales of the Diamond Blade continue, but are not relevant to the Redridge Mountains, so we will tell them another time. After the occurrences related to the Diamond Blade, and the tales of adventure spread further out from the confines of the Redridge Mountains, tranquility around the lake became a familiar sight once again. A few years later, amidst the events of Death's Rising, the Redridge Mountains faced an assault from the Scourge. In response to this undead threat, forces from the Stormwind Army and the Argent Crusade were deployed to defend the region and its residents. This incursion into the Redridge Mountains signifies the concluding narrative to be recounted from within these mountains. And so, our expedition through the heart of the Redridge Mountains draws to a close, leaving us with a mosaic painted in the hues of ancient conflicts, heroic struggles, and the enduring spirit of those residents who call this region home. In the embrace of these mountains, where landscapes seemingly whisper tales of old, Azeroth's history has unfolded in its raw, unfiltered essence. From the echoes of the War of the Ancients, to the upheavals brought by the Orcish invasions and the cataclysm later on, Redridge has stood as a silent witness to the ever-changing tides of destiny. Now, travelling back to the heart of the lower eastern kingdoms, we now must walk the dark and winding roads of Duskwood. Duskwood, once known as Brightwood, resides within the Kingdom of Stormwind, nestled in the southern central reaches of the Eastern Kingdoms, positioned to the south of Elwynn Forest, east of Westfall, west of Deadwind Pass, and north of Stranglethorn Vale. It now exists under an everlasting darkness, a transformation brought about by the malevolent magic unleashed by Medivh's demise. This once scenic part of Elwynn Forest now stands shrouded in gnarled trees, with a thick black fog covering the woods, invoking an aura of intrigue, a land of mystery we aim to unravel in this very narrative. The story of Duskwood commences a remarkable 10,000 years in the past, in an era after the fragmentation of the supercontinent known as Kalimdor into the recognisable lands of today in the aftermath of the Great Sundering, a time when the Night Elves reigned supreme over the lands. Their ascendancy stemmed directly from the bestowed power of the original World Tree, Nordrassil, situated atop of Mount Hyjal at the new Well of Eternity's location. The great dragon, Alexstrasza, imbued the tree with vigour and vitality, gifts that augmented the Night Elves' strengths. Additionally, Ysera's blessing bound the tree and the elven druids to the Emerald Dream, granting them unhindered access to her realm, previously accessible only through arduous meditation. However, the most crucial of the blessings came from Nozdormu, ensuring the Night Elves' immortality as long as the tree endured. Embracing this power, the Night Elves delved deeper into Druidism, establishing one of Azeroth's most expansive and formidable empires. Some druids, driven by their relentless pursuit of knowledge, ventured into forbidden territory by assuming a druid form deemed taboo to combat the satyrs during the War of the Satyr. For a deeper insight into the events surrounding this conflict, explore our dedicated tale, accessible through a secure portal provided in the description below. The aftermath of this war led to the establishment of the Cenarian Circle, a cohesive organisation tasked with guiding and overseeing the practices of the world's druids. Among the founding members of the Cenarian Circle stood Fandral Staghelm, a venerable night elf renowned for his knowledge and wisdom. For millennia, Staghelm dutifully contributed his expertise to the Circle until a perilous revelation came to light. A peculiar metal known as saronite began to emerge in various regions across the world of Azeroth. This mysterious substance is intricately linked with the old god Yogg-Saron. Despite the old god being confined within Ulduar, his ominous influence persisted. His black blood seeped into the world and crystallized into this saronite. This malevolent metal possesses the capability to corrupt all it comes into contact with. The appearance of saronite on Azeroth was first documented approximately 4,500 years ago, manifesting in areas such as Ashenvale, Crystalsong Forest, Feralus, the Hinterlands, and notably Duskwood, referred to as Brightwood during that era. When Staghelm caught wind of these widespread saronite deposits plaguing the lands, it is rumoured that he bypassed consulting the Cenarian Circle and instead took matters into his own hands. In a bid to halt the spread of saronite across the world, Staghelm and his closest followers secretly obtained 6 enchanted branches from the World Tree Nordrassil. They then strategically planted these branches in Ashenvale, Crystalsong Forest, Feralus, the Hinterlands, and in an area of Duskwood known to us today as the Twilight Grove. And from these branches grew the Great Trees. These Great Trees effectively purged the saronite deposits from their respective regions. Encouraged by their success, the Druids planted the final and most significant bough in Northrend, where it rapidly grew into the world tree known as Andrasil. Over time, these great trees flourished in their designated locations. Despite their pivotal role in eradicating the saronite, the significance of these great trees gradually waned in the ensuing millennia. They left many adventurers puzzled about their origins upon first encountering them. Each great tree is accompanied by a portal, and it is said that the druids could utilize these portals beneath the great trees to traverse the Emerald Stream. Unbeknownst to the Circle, Yogg-Saron had exploited the trees planted by Staghelm, using them as a conduit to access the Emerald Stream. Through these trees, the old gods disseminated small seeds of corruption into the Dreamways, eventually polluting the dream and giving rise to what would later be known as the Emerald Nightmare. Additionally, the dragons of the Nightmare emerged from these portals, guarding the portals with utmost dedication, deterring even the most seasoned of fighters. Advancing through time, the next notable milestone in our exploration of Duskwood's tale is the arrival of the humans. Initially the smallest and most secluded human nation, Stormwind gradually prospered, cultivating numerous farmland in the fertile vicinity. As Stormwind's populace grew, quaint towns sprouted around the Elwynn Forest, Westfall, the Redridge Mountains, and of course the region that would come to be known to the humans of that era as Brightwood. Our narrative of Duskwood now takes a sinister turn as we delve into the involvement of Medivh. Despite the details of Medivh's life being far too vast to be fully recounted here, a brief account is still relevant. Medivh, the son of Aegwynn, the guardian of Tirisfal, was destined to follow in his mother's illustrious footsteps as the protector of the land. As the kingdom of Stormwind expanded, venturing into uncharted territories, it inevitably clashed with the indigenous inhabitants of the land. One such conflict arose with the Gurobashi trolls of the Stranglethorn Vale, a region located just south of Duskwood. The war reached its climax with the decimation of large troll armies outside the gates of Stormwind, as Medivh unleashed his formidable power upon them. Following these events, Medivh became apprehensive about his powers, and later embarked on a journey to Karazhan to seek guidance from his mother on how to control them. Karazhan, a mage tower constructed in secrecy by the guardian Aegwynn approximately 600 years prior to the First War, served as his destination. It was during his time at Karazhan that Medivh encountered Morose, a companion of Aegwynn. Morose agreed to assist Medivh and oversee Karazhan, assuming the role of his castellan. Over time, Medivh fell increasingly under the influence of Sargeras, the corrupted titan and leader of the Burning Legion. Sargeras began to manipulate Medivh's thoughts and emotions towards a sinister end. As the darkness within Medivh grew, his isolation as the new guardian was thought to be the cause, and Morose suggested an alternative approach. If Medivh could not trust the Kirin Tor or the Council of Tirisfal, perhaps inviting people from the surrounding regions for a banquet would prove beneficial. Burrows believed that their motives would be genuine, driven only by curiosity, and their company might lift his spirits. In the ensuing years, Medivh hosted numerous gatherings, and indeed his mood appeared to improve. As the tale unfolds, Medivh's journey led him to confront the Orcish warlock, Gul'dan, ultimately resulting in the opening of the Dark Portal. At a subsequent banquet in Karazhan, following the portal's unveiling, Aegwynn made a startling revelation upon confronting her son. Medivh was possessed by Sargeras. Driven to madness by the malevolent demon, Medivh resorted to draining the life force of all nearby humans in a desperate struggle against his own mother. Among the victims were nobles from Grand Hamlet, a quiet, peaceful town located in Brightwood. These events marked a significant and devastating loss for this peaceful town. The horror didn't cease there. At some point during the First War, Grand Hamlet fell prey to relentless orc raiding parties, their numbers swelling as they prepared to besiege the town. Though the forces of Stormwind valiantly held them off for a time, the relentless advance of the old horde ultimately led to the town's demise. As you may know, the dark saga of Duskwood doesn't conclude with the tragic fate of the citizens of Grand Hamlet. In a tale reserved for another time, towards the end of the Second War, Medivh would later meet his end at the hands of the Stormwind forces led by Anduin Lothar, Khadgar, and Corona. In the aftermath of his demise, fell energy surged forth, gradually corrupting the surrounding areas of Karazhan. This corruption extended into the Deadwind Pass and then seeped into Brightwood, transforming the once vibrant land into a perilous, thorn-ridden blight, shrouded in thick fog and eternal darkness. Consequently, in the third year after the opening of the Dark Portal, the land acquired a fresh moniker, Duskwood. This malevolent enchantment not only altered the terrain of the vicinity, but also affected the inhabitants dwelling within. Once, Elwynn Forest harboured a community of spiders, coexisting peacefully within the forests. Yet, as the curse shrouded Duskwood, transforming the tranquil woodland into a realm of dread, these spiders underwent grotesque mutations, swelling to monstrous sizes. The lurking venomous arachnids commenced hunting their unsuspecting prey throughout the shadowed reaches of the land. However, in the face of such adversity, the humans of the realm proved their resilience. Despite the curse casting an eternal night over the land, they refused to abandon the region. Following the Alliance's triumph over the Horde at the conclusion of the Second War, the citizens of the once picturesque Brightwood dared to reclaim their ravaged dwellings in the newly christened and cursed territory of Duskwood. Darkshire emerged from the ashes of Grand Hamlet, its reconstruction aided by the guidance of Supreme Commander Turelion. Under his watchful eye, the kingdom's citizens were repatriated, breathing new life into the town with its solemn yet fitting new name. In a tale not recounted here, following King Varian Rin's disappearance, the Kingdom of Stormwind withdrew its troops from Duskwood due to the political machinations of Lady Katrana Prestor. Left to fend for themselves, the Night Watch was formed to defend against the various threats that plagued the reborn town of Darkshire. Initially led by Commander Althea Ebenlock, the Night Watch consisted of locals who underwent training to protect their home. They faced mutated spiders, marauding wolves, and an abomination crafted by the necromancer Abercrombie the Embalmer. Abercrombie, a Ravenhill alchemist, had been driven mad by his wife Eliza's death. He resorted to dark magic, placing his own heart within her corpse to revive her. This act cursed Eliza with a craving for human flesh, compelling Abercrombie to keep her buried. In his madness, and through unwitting adventurers' assistance, Abercrombie created the abominable Stitches, with the sole purpose to terrorise Darkshire. However, these threats would be but fragments of larger peril. The gravest danger looming over Darkshire and all of Duskwood was the relentless menace of the undead. Morbant Fell, a human necromancer, rose to prominence in the shadowed recesses of the region. Driven by visions of conquest, he raised an army of the undead from the graves of Duskwood, and he also acquired deceased bodies from the grave robber known as Dextran Ward. Ward would later be executed for his heinous crimes after serving time in the Stormwind stockades. From his eerie abode atop Forlorn Row in Ravenhill Cemetery, Morbant Fell wielded control over the undead hordes. Legend has it that Morbant Fell was linked to a sinister group known as the Dark Riders, a connection we'll delve into following this next tale of sorrow. As darkness continued its relentless advance across the land, some brave townsfolk ventured forth to uncover its source. Soon after setting out on their quest, the citizens of Darkshire vanished without a trace, their last known whereabouts being the foreboding Tower of Karazhan. This place believed to be the epicenter of the curse shrouding the land. A rescue mission was swiftly organised, entrusted to 3 battle-hardened individuals. Leading the charge was Duggan, a paladin loyal to the Kingdom of Stormwind and the Order of the Silver Hand. Having witnessed the horrors of the Second War, Duggan had made his home in Duskwood, with his wife Adina and their twin daughters, Lonia and Lyran. Joining him were his companions, Carden, a stout dwarf from the Wildhammer clan, and Voldana, a high elf hailing from the hinterlands. Together they braved the night, their mission clear, to rescue the missing townsfolk of Darkshire. Following the trail of clues, the trio found themselves at the foot of Karazhan's cursed tower. Inside, they were met with chilling sights, tormented spirits haunting the corridors, echoes of lives lost within the tower's walls. Amidst the shadows they encountered Terestian Ilhoof, a corrupted satyr, and in the ensuing battle, Duggan met his untimely demise. Though fate claimed their leader, Carden and Voldana managed to escape the tower's grip, fleeing the horrors within. Carden and Voldana conveyed the heartbreaking news to Duggan's wife, Adina. Consumed by grief, Adina's mind faltered, rendering her incapable of caring for her twin daughters. In a noble gesture to honour their fallen comrade, Voldana and Carden decided to raise the girls as their own. Lonia found her home in Queldanel Lodge, nestled in the hinterlands under Voldana's care, while Carden raised Lyran in Airy Peak. Years passed, and Lyran grew restless, yearning for knowledge about her parents despite Carden's reluctance to reveal the truth. One day, Carden made a journey to visit Voldana in Queldanel, unaware that Lyran had secretly followed him. It was then that Lyran discovered her long-lost twin sister, Lonia. Their reunion prompted Carden to share the family's tragic history, a tale of a valiant paladin named Duggan, their mother Adina, and the dark events that unfolded within Duskwood. Determined to uncover the truth about their mother, the twins embarked on a journey to Darkshire, where they found their old home, now shrouded in darkness. Attacked by ghouls upon arrival, they were rescued by Watcher Dodds and his Night Watch soldiers. The Watch's leader, Commander Althea Ebenlock, brought grim news. Their mother tragically ended her own life, and her corpse had been reanimated into an undead and was amongst those that threatened Darkshire. In a grim task, the twins set out to release their mother's soul from its prison of undead flesh. With determination and sorrow, after they had severed her decayed flesh, they laid their mother's soul to rest in a fresh grave in the hinterlands. It was at this solemn moment that the girls pledged to journey to Karazhan and liberate their father's spirit, ending his perpetual suffering for good. Years passed, and the twins, now young women, honed their skills. Lyran emerged as a skilled warrior, while Lonia, adept in magic, sought to contact their father's spirit. Duggan's warnings went unheeded by Lyran, who remained resolute in her quest to free him. In secret, they journeyed to Karazhan, where they encountered visions of the past and their father's tormentor, Terestian Ilhoof. In a fierce battle against their father's killer, the twins emerged victorious, but not unscathed. Duggan's spirit had intervened to save them from treacherous enchantment. Despite their efforts, Duggan's spirit remained bound to Karazhan. As danger loomed, the twins made their escape. Though they couldn't free their father's spirit, they found solace in knowing his resilience mirrored their own, a testament to their unbroken spirit in the face of the darkness. Transitioning from one sorrowful tale to another, Duskwood bears the burden of Death's stories, embodied by the intimidating figure of Morladim. Clad in armour, this skeletal warrior roamed the Ravenhill Cemetery in Duskwood, a testament to the tragedy that marked his mortal life and then his afterlife. Morladim, once known as Morgan Ladimore, epitomised valour and nobility as a renowned knight. His life's mission was to champion the cause of the innocent, the downtrodden, and the afflicted. Married at the age of 18 to a maiden named Elise, Morgan's life took a drastic turn when the Third War erupted in Lordaeron. Joining forces with Uther the Lightbringer, Morgan faced harrowing trials, witnessing the dissolution of the Knights of the Silver Hand, the fall of Uther, and the scourge unleashed by Kel'Thuzad and the demon lord Mal'Ganis. After returning home to Duskwood after the war's end, Morgan was met with even more devastation. his abode lay in ruins. Despite suggestions that his family might have perished and that they might be found in the graveyard, Morgan resisted, initially heading towards Lakeshire. Yet an unforeseen force drew him to the Raven Hill Cemetery, where he spent hours scouring the graves, finally discovering the resting places of his wife and 2 of his children. Amidst his torment, he did not realize that he had not found the burial of his 3rd child. Consumed by mourning turned to rage, Morgan, driven to madness, lashed out at the gravestones, unwittingly attacking cemetery attendants who attempted to intervene. After regaining his senses, Morgan was horrified by the carnage he had wrought and, overwhelmed by despair, took his own life. The following day, Morgan's corpse and those of the attendees were discovered, and they were hastily buried in a secluded section of the cemetery to prevent further unrest. However, days later, Morgan's grave was found disturbed, and his body was missing. Cursed by his unrelenting grief and the innocent lives he had unwittingly taken, Morladim emerged from the grave, an undead entity haunting the very lands he once swore to protect, preying upon unsuspecting citizens. In the tale of Morladim, one citizen holds particular significance: Sarah Lattimore, the 3rd child, whom he had not encountered in the graveyard prior to his descent into madness. While Morgan believed his family to be all deceased, Sarah had actually survived and later joined the Night Watch, spending much of her life grappling with the circumstances surrounding her father's demise. Commander Althea Ebenlock of Darkshire embarked on a mission to end the terror wrought by the skeletal menace. In the 25th year, she sought the aid of adventurers in her quest against the undead threat. When Morladim fell to Alliance adventurers dispatched by the commander, she revealed the truth to the residents about Sarah's connection to Morladim, and dispatched some of them to inform her that he had finally been vanquished after years of terror. Upon receiving the news, Sarah expressed regret for her inability to intervene and asked the adventurers to bring her ring to her father's grave, symbolizing her well-being and absolving him of responsibility for his actions. This gesture of love allowed Morgan to find peace in death, alongside his wife, seeking forgiveness for his sins in the light upon learning that his daughter was alive. Whilst on the matter of uncovering the truth, our next chapter in Duskwood's narrative is one of love and jealousy. The tale of Stalvin Mistmantle. Born in the Silverpine Forest, Stalvin traversed various paths before settling as an instructor at the Moonbrook Schoolhouse, also serving as a private tutor. His life took a sinister turn when he developed an improper infatuation with one of his young students, a maiden named Tiloa. Despite her affections already pledged elsewhere, Stalvin harboured delusions of a future with her, fueled by a misguided interpretation of her gestures. Driven to madness by unrequited love, Stalvin committed a heinous act, slaughtering Tiloa and her intended groom with an axe. His hands stained with blood, Stalvin retreated to his abode northeast of Darkshire, consumed by loneliness and madness, haunted by the darkness that enveloped him. Through unknown forces, perhaps sheer determination or a pact with darkness itself, Stalvin defied death, rising as an undead entity, forever cursed to roam the shadows of Duskwood, a spectre of lost love and murderous jealousy. Madame Eva, an esteemed resident of Darkshire known for her adherence to ancient arts and her skill as a fortune teller, felt a foreboding sense of danger surrounding her granddaughter, Alyssa Eva. Suspecting that Alyssa might be the next victim of the elusive Duskwood murderer, Madame Eva urgently enlisted the help of brave adventurers, tasking them with the unravelling of the mystery and Stalvin's whereabouts. Legend spoke of Manor Mistmantle as his grim abode, where he lurked as a revenant, thirsting for the blood of any who dared to cross his path. Crossing paths and intersecting stories are a frequent occurrence in the Duskwood lore, with one of the most significant being the encounter between the Dark Riders and the Jorgen farmstead. The Dark Riders were deceitful traders attempting to peddle counterfeit magical relics to Medivh. However, Medivh, under the influence of Sargeras, cursed them as punishment for their dishonesty. Their curse bound them to retrieve authentic magical artifacts from across the kingdom and deliver them to Karazhan. The exact nature of the curse remains unclear, and whether they are undead or not is unknown. Nevertheless, the Dark Riders have plagued the Kingdom of Stormwind, particularly Duskwood, ever since. Their presence is first noted at the Jorgen farmstead, seemingly drawn by the temporal and spatial anomalies caused by a mystical artifact. The artifact in question was the Scythe of Elwynn, a creation forged many moons ago by Belysria Starbreeze and R'hllor Fangfire. They fashioned the scythe by attaching one of Goldrin's fangs to Belysra's staff. R'hllor and the druids of the pack sought to control the unbridled fury of the druid pack form by submitting willingly to the energies of the Scythe of Elwynn. Instead of quelling their rage, however, the weapon transformed R'hllor and his followers into the Worgen, savage humanoids enslaved by their primal instincts. Enraged by Malfurion's scorn, R'hllor's druids wreaked havoc, attacking both elf and demon alike. Night elves bitten by the ferocious beasts contracted the curse, transforming them into Worgen as well. In a desperate bid to contain the spread of the affliction, Malfurion sorrowfully banished the Worgen beneath Darelnir within the Emerald Dream, where they would slumber peacefully for eternity. The scythe was then entrusted to Melthandris in secret, eventually fading into obscurity. Valinda Starsong, Melthandris' niece, ventured to cleanse Ashenvale of demons after the Third War and sought Elwyn's aid in her quest. At the shrine of Melthandris, she stumbled upon the hidden scythe of Elwynn. The artifact possessed the ability to weaken the boundaries of time and space. Holding the scythe, Valinda received a vision of chaos, the Worgen. Realizing the scythe's true power, she communed with the Worgen, not through speech, but through a deeper understanding. As she channeled more of the scythe's energy, the barriers weakened further, drawing the Worgen to Azeroth. Learning of the Archmage, Arugal, and the involvement in summoning Worgen, she journeyed to the Eastern Kingdoms, seeking his aid. In Duskwood, Valinda encountered hostility at Roland's Doom, where she was attacked by Varkas. During the confrontation, a dynamite explosion claimed the lives of Valinda, Varkas, and his minions, entombing the scythe within the cave. The formidable weapon was later discovered by members of the Defias Brotherhood during a mining excavation, and among them was a nervous member named Jitters. Upon touching the weapon, Jitters unwittingly triggered its summoning effects, causing the mine to be overrun by Worgen, who mercilessly tore the men apart. Amidst the chaos, Jitters managed to flee with the weapon, and during his escape he misplaced it in the surrounding woods as he sought refuge. Escaping Roland's Doom, he sought refuge in Darkshire, where he purchased a blank book from Clerk Daltrey and lodged for several days at the Scarlet Raven Tavern, spending his nights recording his thoughts in his journal. Departing abruptly, he hastily retreated to the barn on the Jorgen farmstead. The appearance of the scythe had attracted the attention of the Dark Riders, and upon arrival to the farm, they ruthlessly slaughtered the family of the farm's owner, Sven Jorgen, all before Jitter's eyes. Despite these murders, the scythe was not found. And now the residents of Duskwood find themselves facing not only the undead and Worgen threats, but also the relentless pursuit of the Dark Riders constantly seeking to claim the Scythe of Elwynn. Alpha Prime, formerly known as R'hllor Fangfire, was among the Worgen brought forth by the Archmage Arugal. He also harboured a relentless quest for the Scythe of Elwynn, aiming to utilise it to liberate his fellow Worgen from the imprisonment and launch an assault on Darnassus. To achieve this goal, he established the Wolf Cult, a Worgen cult formed with the intent to propagate the Worgen curse and seek out the fabled Scythe of Elwynn. A man named Revel Cost, a faithful priest of the Church of the Holy Light, had found himself in Westfall while searching for the Cloak of Purity. It was here he encountered Carlane, a mage also in search of a missing artifact. Sensing the looming threat of the Dark Riders, they decided to join forces. However, their journey was soon interrupted by an attack by the Defias Brotherhood as they made their way to meet their contact, Tanos. In a desperate defense, Tanos revealed the existence of a secret artifact known as the Hand of Azora and used it against their assailants. This action drew the attention of the Dark Riders, who swiftly intervened, severing Tanos' hand and ultimately beheading him to claim the artifact. This encounter with death was not Revel's first. Years ago, his family had fallen victim to a savage attack by the summoned Worgen. Filled with determination, Revel mounted a horse to pursue the Dark Riders, while Carlane returned to Elwynn to report Tanos' tragic demise. Upon his return, Carlane found his home desecrated and his son Mardigan missing. His search for answers led him to Darkshire, where he learned that his son had been investigating the Wolf Cult but had vanished while following leads. With the report of Dark Riders spotted at Manor Mistmantle, Carlane's path converged with Revel's once again. For Revel Cost, this convergence presented an opportunity for revenge against both the Dark Riders and the Worgen of the Wolf Cult, a chance he could not afford to miss. While tracking the wolf cult in Duskwood, Revel Cost's group encountered Jitters, who was hiding in the ruins of Raven Hill. Jitters revealed that the scythe had resurfaced at Roland's Doom, and that the Dark Riders were in pursuit of it. However, it seemed that the wolf cult had already obtained the scythe and were using it for sinister initiation rites. After eliminating the cult members situated in Duskwood, Revel retrieved the scythe from the mine. Upon the request of Brink, an operative from the Stormwind Intelligence Agency, who had been tasked with recovering stolen artifacts, Revel devised a plan to ensnare the Dark Riders using the scythe as bait. Following the ambush, Brink took possession of the scythe with intentions to deliver it to a night elf named Valorn Stillbow. After this small defeat, the Dark Riders withdrew into the shadows. We will conclude the saga of the Dark Riders following our discussion on the Cataclysm's events. As the conflict with the Worgen persisted in the area, a particular family garnered increasing support for their unwavering commitment to combat the horrors plaguing Darkshire. The Kervin family staunchly dedicated themselves to battling demons, abominations, undead, and particularly the Worgen. Recognizing that their influence did not quite match that of the Night Watch, Jonathan Kervin determined that their foremost objective would be to stem the growth of the Worgen population in Duskwood. In addition, they provided assistance in the struggle against Morbin Fell. After some time, following the Cataclysm and the resurgence of Deathwing the Destroyer, Duskwood witnessed its fair share of upheaval. A few Gilneans arrived in Duskwood, among them Tobias Mistmantle, who arrived in Darkshire seeking his brother's Stalvin's whereabouts. He temporarily stayed in the town to investigate. However, the residents were reluctant to discuss the matter until Tobias met Clerk Daltrey, who had assisted in the initial inquiry into the Duskwood murderer. Seeking the truth, Tobias consulted Madame Eva, who sent him and an adventurer to Manor Mistmantle. There, Tobias confronted the undead murderer his brother had become. Tobias, revealing he had been afflicted by the Worgen curse, enraged in a fierce battle with his brother, and with the help of the adventurer, managed to defeat Stalvin. Following the Cataclysm, Duskwood faced another threat. Despite being previously defeated by adventurers in Raven Hill, Morbin Fell returned as a lich, posing a renewed danger to the region. Once again, adventurers were called upon to confront this necromancer. Previously, Morbin Fell had been vanquished with Morbin's Bane, a holy artifact capable of dispelling his protective enchantments. Seeking out the scattered pieces of the Bane within Duskwood's depths, adventurers repaired it and used it to weaken Morbin's shield, ultimately defeating him once more. Following his demise, Morbin's Bane, also known as the Torch of the Holy Flame, was placed outside his former abode to keep the undead subdued by Watcher Sarah Lattimore. Amidst Azeroth's turmoil caused by the cataclysmic return of Deathwing, the battle against the Worgen of Duskwood persisted. The Kervin family remained steadfast in their struggle against the darkness of Duskwood, rallying Alliance adventurers to combat the Nightbane Worgen menace throughout the region. And while discussing the ongoing Worgen threat, let's revisit the story of Sven Jorgen. Following the resolution of his family's tragedy, Sven himself fell victim to the feral Worgen of Duskwood, becoming one of them. But while still retaining a fragment of his consciousness, remarkably, he managed to reclaim his sanity through the use of alchemy, holding Jitters responsible, albeit unintentionally, for the arrival of both the Worgen and the Dark Riders to Duskwood. Sven now resides in Raven Hill, and from there he dispatches adventurers to uncover the truth behind Morbin Fell's resurgence. During the upheaval of the Cataclysm, a wave of unsettling letters began appearing on the doors of Duskwood's residents during the night. Though the perpetrator remained elusive, the Council of Darkshire uncovered that the Twilight's Hammer cult was behind these apocalyptic missives, attempting to sway citizens to their cause. With the ongoing war after the Cataclysm, Stormwind's military was overstretched, dealing with larger threats, leaving Darkshire vulnerable without a single footman for protection. Nonetheless, King Varian Rin issued a decree summoning numerous adventurers to assist Commander Althea Ebenlock as the Night Watch struggled to fend off marauding wolves and the roving bands of feral Worgen. At a certain point, feral Worgen breached the town hall, wreaking havoc and causing substantial damage, including the destruction of half of the archives. Years later, during the Burning Legion's third invasion, Althea Ebenlock, some of the Council of Darkshire, and several Night Watchers in Darkshire defected to the Veiled Hand, a human sect aligned with the Burning Legion, aiming to undermine the Kingdom of Stormwind. The reasons for this betrayal still remain elusive, but it is speculated that they were enticed by promises of freedom and respect from the Herald, also known as Melrys Malagan, from Stormwind City. This shocking turn of events led to heightened surveillance in the town, while demonic rituals were conducted using the blood and skulls of Darkshire's inhabitants. Sister Althea Ebonlock addressed the council in the town hall, announcing plans to depart for Stormwind City with Caden Shadowgaze to initiate a demonic invasion. However, the meeting was disrupted by the Shadow of the Uncrowned, a secret organisation dedicated to safeguarding the world from the Burning Legion. The Uncrowned attempted to assassinate Althea, but the attempt on her life failed, and the council members managed to escape. Sarah Lattimore did not join the Legion's forces and hinted that her comrade's defection was likely due to dark magic. When the Shadow of the Uncrowned infiltrated the town, it is reported that Lattimore was observed protecting several innocent inhabitants. The Kervin family also refrained from joining the Legion and were reportedly found hiding in their house while the cultists wreaked havoc. And like the family, not all members of the Night Watch succumbed to corruption. Some remained loyal, as evidence of a guard found dead in Raven Hill demonstrated the tragic fate of those who resisted the influence from their former comrades. Commander Althea Ebonlock would later meet her demise at the hands of Garona and the uncrowned rogues in Stormwind City. Following the events in Gilneas, the Scythe of Elwynn found its way back to Darnassus, later receiving approval from Tyrande Whisperwind to be entrusted to the Druids of the Dream Grove. Belisra and Valhorn thus journeyed with the Scythe of Elwynn to Duskwood, both to delve deeper into their research of the Worgen and to meet with the new Archdruid of the Dream Grove. On Tyrande's directive, they brought it to the Twilight Grove in Duskwood to pass it on to a Druid adventurer. However, upon the Druid's arrival via the Emerald Dream, Valhorn was swiftly attacked by Ariden, the leader of the Dark Riders, resulting in the theft of the Scythe of Elwynn, which had now finally fallen into the Dark Riders' possession. While Belisra remained with Valhorn, the Druid joined forces with Revel Cost at Manor Mistmantle, collaborating to reclaim the Scythe of Elwynn from the Dark Riders at Karazhan. After Sargeras drove his sword into Azeroth, the Scythe of Elwynn, along with all Legion artifacts, had its power completely drained to help neutralise the wound. Years later, during the Fourth War, heightened activity was observed in Raven Hill and the Twilight Grove of Duskwood. Vassandra Stormclaw joined Oliver Harris and other Raven Hill residents in researching the Worgen curse. Nightbane Worgen were captured for experimentation, while the community faced challenges posed by the particular vicious member of the Nightbane pack known as Blood Eyes. Meanwhile, Manor Mistmantle witnessed the emergence of a rare flower named Elun's Grace, which was surrounded by a pack of Mistfang wolves. In a separate development, Tess Greymane expressed a desire to embrace the Worgen curse in order to better understand her people. When her father hesitated to comply, Tess and a Gilnean adventurer journeyed to Duskwood seeking guidance from Vassandra Stormclaw. While Tess pursued her own tasks with the Druid, the adventurer embarked on a mission to capture Blood Eyes, collect fangs from the Mistfang wolves, and retrieve Elun's Grace. These items were then used by Vassandra in the Twilight Grove to summon Goldrin through a dream portal, granting Tess a vision wherein she experienced the fall of Gilneas as a Worgen. Following the demise of the defected Althea Ebonlock and her treacherous associates within the Night Watch, Sarah Lattimore ascended to the position of commander within the uncorrupted Night Watch. In the aftermath of the Fourth War, a human necromancer seized the Torch of Holy Flame, an essential artifact maintaining control over Duskwood's undead from Forlorn Row. With the intent of amassing an undead army, the necromancer's forces assaulted Commander Lattimore at Raven Hill, resulting in the death and reanimation of numerous watchers. Meanwhile, Flynn Fairwind and Matthias Shaw travelled to Duskwood on a quest for treasure. The two discovered Sarah wounded and afflicted with a decaying ailment following her confrontation with the necromancer who had pilfered the Torch of Holy Flame. Flynn administered a healing potion, saving her life, before escorting her back to Darkshire for further care under her watchful comrades. Following the defeat of the Necromancer and the recovery and purification of the Torch of Holy Flame, Sarah met with Shaw and Flynn at the Scarlet Raven Tavern to express her gratitude for their role in safeguarding Duskwood from the undead menace. Shaw acknowledged the Night Watch's crucial contribution and pledged to send reinforcements from Stormwind in light of the lingering threat alluded to by the Necromancer. Before departing Duskwood, Shaw entrusted the Night Watch with Flynn's treasure map. Grateful for their assistance, Lattimore and her watchers retrieved the treasure for them, a hand mirror, as a token of appreciation for them both. Sometime later, amid Death Rising, a widespread scourge assault targeted numerous regions within the Kingdom of Stormwind, including Duskwood. In response, forces from the Stormwind Army and the Argent Crusade were deployed to safeguard the area and its populace against the undead onslaught. Following the resurgence of the Dragon Isles, the Night Watch still remained vigilant in Duskwood, and after 2 decades of dedicated service and after bearing witness to the region's numerous trials, Corsten Willard, one of the organisation's most steadfast watchmen, opted to retire. Seeking adventure and a change of scenery, he chose to join the Dragonscale expedition, longing for a taste of adventure and maybe just a little bit of sunshine. And on that topic, not that the inhabitants would notice, but it's time to let the sun set over Duskwood. Our narrative of these forests must come to an end. As the shadows lengthen and the last embers of twilight fade, we come to end our journey through the haunting tales of Duskwood. From the tragic fate of the Lattimore family to the valiant efforts of the Night Watch against the encroaching darkness, we've delved into the depths of this forsaken land, uncovering stories of love, betrayal, and redemption. And finally, travelling to one of the most dangerous but fascinating regions within the entire World of Warcraft, the Stranglethorn Vale. In the southernmost reaches of the Eastern Kingdoms, an expansive jungle sprawls to the south of Duskwood, the Stranglethorn Vale. This place instills a sense of fear even in the most seasoned of adventurers. Luckily, some brave adventurers have successfully traversed the jungle's challenges and returned with captivating stories ready to unfold in this very tale. Our journey into the lore of the Stranglethorn Vale commences an impressive 16,000 years ago. In the heart of ancient Kalimdor lay the Well of Eternity, an immense lake pulsating with potent energies, originating from a profound wound in Azeroth's surface. The Well of Eternity was created when Aman'Thul, the High Father of the Titan Pantheon, attempted to extract the old god Yar-Sharaj, inadvertently tearing the world's crust apart. The creation of the well accelerated the cycles of growth and rebirth across the primordial continent, giving rise to sentient life forms. Among the first and the most prolific were the trolls. Led by the Shadow Hunters, these masters of voodoo and shadow magic served as the highest authority, organising trolls into small tribes. Over time, these tribes eventually expanded and created vast cities across ancient Kalimdor. During this expansion, the trolls held sway over a considerable portion of the land. The Zandalari Empire, built upon a caste system, witnessed the transformation of these castes into distinct groups. 2 troll empires emerged, the Amani Empire in the Middle Forest lands and the Gurubashi Empire in the southern eastern jungles. And as you may have guessed, the empire relevant to today's narrative is of course the Gurubashi Empire. In this time, frequent small wars between the tribes were a common occurrence, often resulting in substantial loss of life. To avoid such casualties, it became common practice for the trolls to relocate to different areas instead of engaging in land disputes. At this point in Azeroth's history, land was abundant and mostly uncontested, allowing trolls a relatively free reign over the territories. However, there was one specific location forbidden to the trolls by their priests and their mystics, a dark mound of blackened earth and stone situated at the base of the Zandalar Mountains. This forbidden site was warned against by Aloha, the beings that were worshipped by the trolls, and severe consequences were foretold for those who dared to disturb it. Despite the taboo, a particular troll named Zando, who had been disgraced and ousted from a position of power within the Gurubashi tribe, was dreaming of revenge. Zando acquired the dagger Xal'atath, and this dagger easily exploited his anger. Guided by the dagger's whispers, Zando, along with a group of loyal witch doctors, defied the taboo and sought out the forbidden mound of black stone at the base of the Zandalar Mountains. Zando believed that the mound held the power necessary to defeat his rivals. To their surprise, the forbidden mound turned out to be the dormant body of Kithix, a slumbering Cathrax. Mistakenly thinking it was Aloha, Zando made blood sacrifices to awaken the creature, manipulated by the corrupted influence of the dagger. Zando dismembered some of his companions, used their blood and organs to awaken Kithix, and buried Xal'atath in the creature's hide, causing it to come to life. Fully awakened, Kithix sought to gain favour with the old gods by destroying this primitive race that had disturbed it, and took control of the Akia, dwelling underground, leading to the Akia and Troll War. The Cathrax incited the Achaea into a frenzied state, prompting them to ravage the thriving troll civilizations. Their objective was to initiate the purification of the world for the anticipated return of the old gods. The Achaea inundated the troll territories, methodically eradicating a significant portion of the smaller tribes. In response, the Zandalar tribe formed the Empire of Zol, a unified force consisting of the largest troll tribes, including the Zandalari, the Gurubashi, the Amani, and the Drukhari. With the coordination of the Empire of Zol and the aid of wild gods enlisted by troll priests, the trolls successfully halted the Achaea's offensive and began driving them back. Dividing their forces into more maneuverable groups, the trolls engaged in an effective guerrilla warfare, hunting down Achaea colonies to destroy them. Simultaneously, the Amani tribe pursued the Achaea's leader, resulting in a legendary but suicidal assault on the Cathrax. Despite heavy losses, the Amani succeeded in bringing down their formidable foe. While the Achaea were not completely driven into extinction, they were unable to continue the war, and the trolls declared themselves victorious. The troll tribes, now far from their original home near the center of the continent, chose to settle in the newly discovered areas, founding new cities and empires. One of these cities was the infamous Zul'Gurub, located within the jungles of Stranglethorn Vale. In the lore of the trolls, it is recounted that the orb, known as the Stone of the Tides, first manifested along the Stranglethorn coast. Discovered by a wandering troll warrior, the blue stone intrigued him, prompting him to carry it on his journey. As time elapsed, the troll realized the stone bestowed upon him the ability to control water. He could summon water elementals, manipulate the tides, and perform feats reminiscent of the powerful mages of the Kirin Tor. Returning to Zul'Gurub, the warrior showcased his newfound powers to the Emperor, earning the new title of Tidebearer. The troll was granted a place of honour in the court of Gurubashi, faithfully serving the Gurubashi Empire for years to come. However, as time passed, the Tidebearer became increasingly reclusive. The Stone of Tides, with all of its power, also bore a curse. Over time, the bearer of the stone would gradually fade until disappearing from the physical world forever. Concealing this secret from the Empire, the Tidebearer journeyed to the beach where he initially found the stone and walked into the water, vanishing. Many generations later, the stone would wash ashore again, finding a new Tidebearer. This cyclical process continued, with Tidebearers coming and going, much like their predecessors. After the catastrophic events of the Great Sundering, the Gurubashi Empire discovered itself in decline in the southern expanse of the recently formed continent, the Eastern Kingdoms. Although large areas of the jungle, including their ancient city of Zul'Gurub, had survived the Sundering, the trolls had been isolated from their traditional hunting and farming grounds, and with that, famine and poverty spread widely across the trolls' territories. Despite modest improvements over time, the Gurubashi Empire remained a diminished version of its former glory. Regardless of the agricultural struggles, the trolls maintained a semblance of peaceful isolation for many years. The only threat to the Gurubashi Empire trolls during this period of time were themselves. After thousands of uneventful years, around 1,500 years prior to the opening of the Dark Portal in the nearby lands, the tale of the Gurubashi Empire would once again unfold. Traditionally esteemed by nearly all troll communities, the ancient lower spirits emerged as a potential salvation for the struggling Gurubashi Empire. The Gurubashi chose to focus their reverence on one specific lower. Responding to their plea, Hakar, the Lower of Blood, pledged assistance to help the Gurubashi expand their empire and regain prosperity. In exchange, Hakar demanded a substantial number of blood sacrifices. A majority of the Gurubashi trolls eagerly embraced this opportunity, and those who devoted themselves to the Soul Flayer became known as the Hakari. With Hakar's support, they decisively defeated nearby troll packs, Murloc tribes, and other trolls opposing Hakar and the Gurubashi. Captured foes were utilized as a part of the extensive offerings demanded by Hakar. Under the guidance and influence of the Lower, the Gurubashi successfully achieved their goals, conquering vast territories and numerous islands along the coasts of the South Seas. From their island in the ocean, the Zandalari, self-appointed protectors and leaders of the troll race, observed these developments with great interest. Initially pleased with their jungle troll brethren returning to traditional conquest and worship, the Zandalari's joy eventually turned into concern. Delving into myths and ancient accounts, they uncovered disturbing truths. Hakar, also known as the Soul Flayer, infused his followers with a murderous rage. The ensuing carnage, chaos, and destruction perfectly suited the blood god, and he craved more. Recognizing the imminent threat Hakar posed, Not only to the Gurubashi but to the entire world, the Zandalari quickly gathered a formidable force and set sail for Stranglethorn. Their mission was to warn the jungle trolls and put an end to the Hakari. Simultaneously, Hakar's demands grew more pressing. He insisted on the initiation of a ritual to summon him directly into the physical world. Recognizing the danger, most of the Hakari started to comprehend the Soulflayer's unquenchable appetite. By the time the Zandalari arrived, the Gurubashi Empire was already facing internal strife due to Hakar's escalating demands. Upon meeting with the Gurubashi trolls, who shared concerns about Hakar's influence, the Zandalari discovered that a radical faction within the Hakari, known as the Atalai, were heeding to the demands of the Blood God and attempting to summon him. Horrified by this revelation, the Zandalari, along with their combined force of some concerned Hakari, launched an assault on the Gurubashi capital, Zul'Gurub, where the summoning ritual was underway. Fierce battles unfolded across the city. Despite heavy losses, the Zandalari-led forces eventually gained the upper hand. Atop of Hakar's blood-soaked shrine, they succeeded in defeating Hakar's avatar and most of his fanatical followers. Though relieved by the victory, the coalition remained vigilant for any signs of Hakar's potential return, fully aware that the lowest spirit had been banished but not truly eradicated from the physical world. Despite the significant losses suffered by the Atalai during the Civil War, particularly in their defeat in Zul'Gurub, a few managed to evade capture and fled into the surrounding jungles. Seeking refuge in the desolate Swamp of Sorrows, they embarked on constructing a new temple, the Temple of Atal Hakar, with the sole intention of resuming the interrupted summoning that had ceased with the fall of the temple city, Zul'Gurub. For more information about the story and the Temple of Atal Hakar, you can refer to our tale of the Swamp of Sorrows. A safe portal can be found in the description below. The remnants of the Gurubashi Empire fragmented into distinct tribes and factions, including the Bloodscalp, the Skull Splitters, and any remaining Gurubashi. These factions pursued independent paths, staking claims to territories within the expansive jungles of the Stranglethorn Vale. The dispersed tribes soon found themselves in conflict with each other, and eventually the Darkspear tribe, relatively smaller than the others, were forced to leave the continent and set sail on the seas. Following the Gurubashi civil conflict, the trolls remained in this fractured state for several more centuries before embarking on a war that would prove devastating for the trolls of Stranglethorn Vale. Years after the Knoll Wars, in which the humans emerged victorious, the Kingdom of Stormwind continued to thrive in the Eastern Kingdoms. Enjoying relative peace, Stormwind settlers expanded the kingdom's borders southward, dangerously close to the jungles of Stranglethorn Vale. Inevitably, skirmishes arose between the expanding humans and the territorial trolls. King Barathan Rin, Stormwind's aging ruler, adopted a non-aggressive stance, hoping to prevent an all-out war. Over time, small clashes escalated into larger disturbances, with organised troll warbands raiding Stormwind's lands. Controversial within the kingdom, Prince Lane, the king's son, advocated for a more aggressive approach, leading to conflict with his father. While King Barathan's efforts were effective, some troll attacks couldn't be stopped. A successful raid into Westfall resulted in widespread destruction, shocking the kingdom. Despite calls for retaliation, the king remained committed to de-escalation. Prince Lane, furious at his father's decision, publicly challenged him. The humiliation galvanized the prince, who, with the support of others like Anduin Lothar, began formulating a plan to infiltrate the Gurubashi lands and end the troll threat themselves. Around this time, the Guardian Medivh, who had been in a magically induced coma for years due to the emergence of his formidable powers, re-entered life in the kingdom. Determined to aid his friends and escape his newfound internal troubles, Medivh joined their covert mission into the jungle troll territory. Having made it through Stormwind's borders unnoticed, the trio utilised Medivh's magic to remain hidden as they ventured into Gurubashi lands. Their objective was the troll leader, Joknon, believing that slaying their leader would plunge the Gurubashi trolls into chaos. When they engaged the troll leader, the battle was brutal, drawing significant attention. Medivh duelled Joknon, who employed dark blood magics that nearly overwhelmed the mage. Forced to unleash his guardian powers, Medivh's spell instantly slew every troll in the area, their screams echoing throughout the Stranglethorn Vale. Shocked at their friend's display of power, Lane and Lothar, accompanied by Medivh, hastily returned to Stormwind. Despite achieving their goal, both men harboured doubts about their longtime companion's well-being. While no surviving Gurubashi jungle trolls could testify about the events in central Stranglethorn, their forces quickly identified the culprits. Enraged by the bold attack, the Gurubashi, led by the warlord Joknon's son, Zannon, united for all-out war against the humans. Mobilizing, they marched towards Stormwind City. Stormwind, accustomed to dealing with minor raiding parties, found its southern defences crumbling under the overwhelming troll numbers. Civilians unable to escape suffered gruesome fates as the Gurubashi advanced. King Barathon, understanding the gravity of the situation, recalled major forces to the city gates. Prince Lane and his companions informed the king of the events in Stranglethorn. Though upset, King Barathon, recognizing the dire circumstances, refrained from punishing the trio. The Gurubashi army arrived outside of Stormwind in terrifying numbers, led by Zannon, who harnessed dark magics to create mutated soldiers. These creatures scaled the city walls effortlessly, wreaking havoc. As the trolls clashed with Stormwind soldiers, the death toll soared. Realizing the dire situation, King Barathon mounted a desperate attack into the heart of the enemy lines, but fell in battle. Lane Rin, now king, grieved his father's death, but refused to succumb to despair. Despite Stormwind's defences on the verge of collapse, Lane pleaded with Medivh to unleash his full powers, and the mage agreed. From atop the battlements, Medivh harnessed his abilities, laying waste to the Gurubashi forces with fire, frost, and arcane magic. The trolls met torturous deaths, while almost the entire Gurubashi army, including warlord Zannon, was annihilated, with only a small handful escaping back to the Stranglethorn Vale. With the troll numbers greatly reduced, the remaining members of the tribe withdrew deep into the jungle in a bid to regain their strength. As the tales of the trolls faded into obscurity, rumours of a bustling city began to surface, gaining popularity among Azeroth's most mischievous inhabitants, Booty Bay. Previously known as Blackwater Cove, this area is a large, sheltered, semicircular cove surrounded by cliffs at the southern end of Stranglethorn Vale. It used to be a small port town inhabited by humans, but was later overrun by the jungle trolls. Eventually, the goblins of the Steamweedle cartel successfully expelled the trolls from the immediate vicinity, establishing Booty Bay as their new operational centre in the Eastern Kingdoms. For timeline reference, this occurred sometime before the First War, as Booty Bay was already under the control of the Steamweedle cartel by then. At a later time, the Dark Portal was opened in the neighbouring lands of the Black Morass. During the Horde's invasion of Azeroth, the majority of their forces engaged in warfare against the humans of Stormwind. However, Kilrog Deadeye led his Bleeding Hollow clan into Stranglethorn Vale, reminiscent of the Orcs' ancestral home in the Tanarn jungle. The Bleeding Hollow were determined to claim Stranglethorn for themselves, but the Gurubashi, unwilling to share their lands, clashed with the invading forces. Despite the Gurubashi being weakened by the previous war, their knowledge of the land allowed them to launch guerrilla campaigns, forcing the Bleeding Hollow to retreat from the region. Warchief Blackhand eventually ordered Kilrog and his Bleeding Hollow clan to withdraw upon learning of the conflict, deeming too many orcs were dying without apparent gain. After the Third War, Booty Bay was still under the management of the Blackwater Raiders, closely affiliated with the Steamweedle cartel. The port provided facilities to any traveller passing through, regardless of their faction. Alongside the renowned Salty Sailor Tavern, it was one of the most popular locations in Azeroth during this time. Booty Bay epitomises the vibrant ambience of a thriving port town, where people from all corners of the world gather for trade, travel, and inevitably engage in gambling, brawling, and thievery. Despite its outward appearance as a bustling and seemingly harmless township, Booty Bay harbours a diverse array of wayward and dubious characters. One notable figure adventurers may encounter is Fleetmaster Seahorn, a key member of the Blackwater Raiders responsible for managing the intricate logistics of the Blackwater fleet. Within the bay's confines, one may also come across individuals who have succumbed to its perils, such as Shaky Philippe, constantly gripped by extreme fear, likely due to owing a debt to the fearsome Seawolf McKinley. Just outside the harbour, Janero's Point features a splendid goblin monument with mysterious origins. Despite the mystery surrounding its creation, travellers recognise its outstretched arms as an unmistakable guidepost during their journeys to the bay. Despite the various events of thievery, gambling, and fighting, these activities were relatively low on the priority list for the leaders of Booty Bay. They were more concerned with a much larger issue, the Bloodsail Buccaneers. Despite their immense peril, the Bloodsail Buccaneers lay claim to the title of the least affluent of all pirate collectives. This circumstance arises from the brutal reality that none survive a Bloodsail assault. Then there is no one left to steal from again. The Bloodsail buccaneers had plotted to plunder and cripple the Steamweedle cartel-controlled port city of Booty Bay. In preparation for the attack, the Bloodsail buccaneers took up positions in key locations near the city. They anchored 3 ships along the coastline south of Booty Bay, clear of the town's defensive cannons, with camps also being built along the same coast in preparation for the assault. We will tell the tale of the Bloodsail buccaneers another time. One story, however, is worth mentioning in this narrative. Dizzy One-Eye holds a treasury of tales recounting the daring exploits of the Bloodsail buccaneers. In times long past, Dizzy lost both his eyes during a fierce battle within Menethil Harbour. Aware of Dizzy's misfortune, a skilled wizard enchanted a glass eye, restoring his gift of sight. However, as years passed, he made his way to Booty Bay. The buccaneers, amidst a city raid, seized Dizzy's enchanted glass eye. This unfortunate event cast him into darkness once again, marking a second instance of blindness within a single lifetime. Rumours have circulated that a resourceful adventurer managed to retrieve the prized eye, but it is yet to be confirmed. In the 25th year following the opening of the Dark Portal, Stranglethorn Vale, much like many areas of Azeroth, experienced an influx of new adventurers. Many journeyed to the jungle in search of wealth, seeking knowledge, embarking on foreign adventures, and even defending the shores against aggressive pirates. A frequent stop for these adventurers was of course Booty Bay, where various inhabitants, including some with dubious backgrounds, would often dispatch these adventurers on a variety of quests within the jungle. While Booty Bay may be appealing to some individuals, the goblins couldn't resist the temptation to venture out and explore the jungle in pursuit of riches. As part of the infamous venture company, the crafty goblin trade princes had established their mining and deforestation operations here. The goblins had maintained a tenuous hold over these remote facilities, but they remained threatened by the jungle trolls' growing obsession with purging their ancient lands of any and all foreign invaders. However, goblins, pirates and trolls aren't the sole beings one must be wary of when navigating the jungle of the Stranglethorn Vale. The Vale, captivating in its beauty, conceals numerous perils that inexperienced adventurers should avoid facing alone. Inhabiting the Vale are diverse creatures, both formidable and hostile. Among the sapient inhabitants are the previously mentioned Bloodscalp and Skullsplitter trolls, situated in the northwest and east respectively. To the northwest, Yojamba Isle serves as the base for the Zandalar tribe, while an encampment of ogres resides nearby. The ogres held sway over a perilous individual known as Colonel Curzon. Initially a skilled and honourable soldier from Stormwind, he spearheaded an expedition from Stormwind to Stranglethorn Vale. Regrettably, at some point during the expedition, he fell prey to dark magic, his mind succumbing to the possession by Myzoth, a formidable ogre mage from the local Mosh Og ogre clan, with intentions to exploit Curzon and his men for their own purposes. While the majority of Curzon's men continued to follow their corrupted leader, a faction within his ranks, troubled by Curzon's abrupt transformation, rebelled and established their own group at the rebel camp. In contrast to Curzon's forces, the rebels remained loyal to Stormwind. Lieutenant Doran, leader of the rebels, sought Curzon's demise to bring an end to his madness. Off the southeast coast lies Jagero Isle, home to the colossal gorilla King Mukla. In the southwest, a small Naga population is present, and Murlocs inhabit underwater ruins in the northwest. While journeying through northern Stranglethorn, adventurers may stumble upon Nessingwary's expedition, where brave souls embark on quests to thin the ranks of the local beasts. Hermit Nessingwary, a dwarf widely recognised as Azeroth's most skilled hunter, penned his well-known book, The Green Hills of Stranglethorn, during his exploration of the jungle. This book is entangled with an incident, one that may or may not involve a mischievous monkey. In the aftermath of the cataclysm, Stranglethorn Vale underwent a profound transformation, split by a sizable sinkhole harbouring a turbulent whirlpool named the Sundering at its core. The areas once constituting Stranglethorn are now recognised as Northern Stranglethorn, also referred to as the Stranglethorn Jungle, and the Cape of Stranglethorn. Responding to these changes, the Explorers League established a new alliance encampment named the Explorers League Dig Site. Simultaneously, the goblins laid down extensive oil pipelines in the water and founded a new horde town known as Hard Wrench Hideaway. Another alliance stronghold, Fort Livingston, also emerged, while the Zandalari relocated from Yojamba Isle, transporting their structures with them. Within northern Stranglethorn, adventurers bear witness to political shifts within Zul'Gurub, embark on missions involving raptors, and partake in expanding hunting endeavours under the guidance of Nessingwary. On the other hand, the Cape of Stranglethorn unravels the escalating conflict between the goblin pirates of Booty Bay and their adversaries, the Bloodsail Buccaneers. The township faced a direct assault from the pirates, with buildings set ablaze and a blockade enforced. The Brash Tide crew invaded the area, causing terror among the inhabitants. The port was ultimately safeguarded by the adventurers. Booty Bay, to this day, continues to stand as the primary city under the control of the goblins. Subsequently, Stranglethorn faced renewed aggression from Zul'Gurub, this time under the command of the Zandalari. Due to its geographical location in the southernmost reaches of the Eastern Kingdoms, Stranglethorn Vale remains somewhat isolated from the upheavals that have unfolded across Azeroth in various wars over the years. There are no grand tales to recount regarding the events following that of the Cataclysm. Instead, only nuanced details that await discovery by adventurous souls like yourself. As we conclude our journey through the vibrant and perilous Stranglethorn Vale, we're reminded that every corner of Azeroth holds tales of adventure, conflict, and resilience. From the bustling Booty Bay, a haven for trade and mischief, to the dense jungles teeming with trolls, goblins, and countless mysteries, this land has witnessed the ebb and flow of civilization. As adventurers, we've uncovered the rich narrative of the Stranglethorn Vale, a place where legends are forged, alliances tested, and friendships kindled amidst the chaos. The echoes of battles, the whispers of the wind through the towering trees, and the secrets concealed in every shadow beckon us to embrace the untamed spirit of this jungle. As the sun sets over the Stranglethorn Vale, we come to the end of our journey through the lands of the Eastern Kingdoms. Let's take a moment to reflect on the rich history we've uncovered. Each of these zones, with their unique challenges and triumphs, has shaped the lives of countless adventurers, creating a complex narrative that spans generations. As we close this chapter, let us remember the stories and lessons learned from these zones. They are not just places on a map, but they are living, breathing realms that have shaped our adventures and defined our experiences. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Until our next adventure, may your path be safe, your battles victorious, and your heart always filled with the spirit of the quest. Safe travels.